Cineboys to Cinemen, episode 46.
46?
46. Hope you're well, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. This week, the long-awaited meeting of the minds. Something that Kaya de Cinema said was the podcasting equivalent of the Frost Nixon interview.
Oh, yes.
The Cineboys are finally meeting. Well, we've met you before.
Yeah.
But an audio meeting.
Yes.
Film angle. Chris and Alex, how are you?
Hello.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, very excited to be here. Very excited indeed.
This has been long in the offing, hasn't it?
Yes, we've been trying to get this sorted for a little while now, haven't we?
I actually thought it wasn't going to happen, and then I was going to come up to visit you, Alex, and then I think Danny was just like, let's just make it happen, or else it'll never get done. So, yeah, I'm really excited to talk with you guys tonight.
Absolutely. It also marks a first for us as well. We've never recorded in person before. So.
That's quite strange to us, isn't it? But I guess for you guys it makes more sense because you're geographically separate from one another.
And we're 84 episodes in, and we're just not used to this setting that we're doing right now. So we are going to... This is going to be interesting, but we're going to try our best, aren't we, Alex?
Absolutely, yeah. We were a little worried we might not be friends by the end of it. Like maybe the chemistry is only through the screen.
Exactly.
But yeah, we're hoping.
Well, there's a little bit of sexual chemistry, and that can kind of overtake and manifest in real life too. So that might, help us along the way.
Well, we have the same.
I'm feeling it in the room in general already.
Yeah. I mean, that's I turned the heating off for that reason.
Oh yeah.
So as it's sort of like a special episode, we're not necessarily going to talk about one film in particular.
Yeah.
We felt that it merited sort of more broad discussion across a range of topics pertaining to the world of film. So this week we're going to be talking about lots of different things, but chiefly films we die on a hill for.
Yeah.
So that's films that are often maligned, or broadly speaking, or critically panned, or generally disliked in sort of public discussions.
Yeah, or even just forgotten.
Yeah, that's probably,
Yeah, just films that are kind of met with indifference. That we all personally have.
But you connected to it.
For. Yeah,
exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. And we've all got a few belters there. Although, I don't know if I've heard... I know yours. I don't know if I know... Oh, no, I do know yours.
No, I haven't really made it public. I'm on our WhatsApp.
Oh, no, you did... Yeah, you suggested one, and then you changed your mind. Yeah.
And then I could not be bothered to revisit the material. So I went back on some ones I did know I could maybe... talk about it a little bit.
Or you're just worried to share them, maybe. Maybe that's it.
I'm worried to share the ones I got now. You could have done like the thing that everybody does on the red carpet. Is like, what is your letterbox top 4?
Yeah,
and that would have been a little bit of a nicer introduction for both me and Alex. But now, everybody's just going to think we're like terrible taste. So, thanks.
People listen to us to have that. So, don't worry about it.
So, preface that there.
In podcasting, by the way, not in films. Don't leave us.
Yeah.
The next discussion after that will be sort of like a broader topic about the landscape of film. Because I think it's things we've touched on in quite a few episodes before, but I think given that we've got you two guys in here, obviously that's something, we're all equally passionate about. I think it'll be like good to have 2 extra voices about that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we've got a few other little things we'll talk about, which we'll save for a bit later on.
Yes.
In the meantime, strap in. It's probably going to be a long one.
I reckon so. About the 2-hour mark.
Oh, yeah. A bit more, maybe.
Maybe a bit more. 2 hours, 3.
Risky.
Questing the cinematic void.
All right, then. Films we die on a hill for. Alex, shoot from your strong hips.
Ooh, are we going honourable mentions first, or...
I reckon save honourable mentions for the end. We'll blast through those.
Okay.
Not the... Yeah.
All right, I'll go first. My film that I would die on a hill for is the mainly hated Showgirls, and
solid.
Paul Verhoeven's masterpiece, I would say. I think it is a brilliant film.
I agree.
It is. I think it is a bit of an epic that delves deep into a kind of world that we haven't seen before, the seedy world of kind of showgirls and strippers and all that kind of stuff, and follows a very kind of interesting character. She navigates her way through that world, and it is very in your face. It's very campy. There's a bizarre amount of nudity. I'm not listing reasons why I like it. Trying not to act like a perv. But it is To me, it is the Red Shoes of the 90s.
Wow.
Okay.
I think it delves into that idea of like an ensemble show, in the same way the Red Shoes does with a ballet company, ballet studio. This idea of like a fantasy version of how that might work behind the scenes, and the kind of way that it is in some ways empowering, but then also a place where that kind of toxic masculinity in the world of showgirls also kind of breeds in that kind of place as well. So yeah, it really looks into the depths of all those things, but I also just find it a brilliantly funny film, and I think it knows it's funny.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of the time people don't realise that Verhoeven's in on the joke.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of happened to a lot of his films.
Starship Troopers, right afterwards, so 2 years later, the exact same thing happened. Nobody bought into the kind of satire of it. But, I mean, in the same... I watched Showgirls last night in preparation for this, and, like, it was such a strange revisit for me, because, like, yeah, it's so, like, lurid. And like Vegas has never looked so kind of simultaneously neon but grubby at the same time, and then there you kind of got the juxtaposition of all the actual shows, which are kind of very clean, and the cinematography is really good as well. It's like masterfully shot. So yeah, it's a really fascinating choice, Alex, I think.
It's just one of those films. First time I watched it, I was just absolutely fascinated by it. I don't think I knew that it was hated at the time, and it wasn't until I wanted to do a bit more research on the film itself. You know, when you come out of a really good film, you just want to know more about it, the history, and you understand that it is very, very hated.
Yeah,
Showgirls bad is a thing, isn't it?
Yes,
You say it's so bad, it's Showgirls bad, which means it's still really entertaining, but it's a dreadful piece of work. Like that's like a term which I think Joe Esterhaus, who wrote it, kind of cottoned onto and jumped on the bandwagon, and then Verhoeven was actually slightly remorseful, mainly because he didn't like the fact that he'd ruined Elizabeth Berkley's career. So he was a lot
really worked much again after this film, despite
not really.
Despite being obviously like this massive star, and it's got quite a bit of production behind it and stuff like that. Maybe that's why at the time it was maybe more shocking than people thought, and you know. This idea of because I think where did she come from? Like Save the Bell,
Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So she kind of went from like
exactly
to something that was completely against type.
Yeah,
so there was
aggressive career trajectory for sure.
Yeah, there was probably a lot of expectation on her, a lot of expectation on the film as to what it might be from the outside. And again, it's a very, very adult, but high production, probably high budget film.
Yeah.
And I just think, looking back at it, it's difficult to understand why it was so hated, but you try to put yourself into the kind of mindset of people at the time. Maybe it was just kind of like, this is not the film I was expecting. And if you're therefore not in on the joke, if you got a negative mindset from the very beginning, I can see why you'd be like,
I find it hard to have like a negative mindset going into this film. It's got this like the schlocky value is kind of inherently part of the joy of watching it, even though it is doing some things really right, especially with character development and just the way Verhoeven sort of shoots the film. But that is kind of the fun, and if you don't get the joke kind of from the start of it, well, I think it's a little bit on you, because it wears its heart on its sleeve very early on. Yeah, and it's an aggressive film in that way, but if you're up for the ride, it's which I certainly was. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I agree. I think sort of jump at that point you were saying about like not being in on it. I think a lot of Verhoeven's films, it's like the nature of his satire is bringing it so stylistically close to what it is that he's making a joke of, and I think that's where a lot of the divisive nature of his films comes in. Of course, he's responsible for films that are universally beloved, like RoboCop, right? But even RoboCop does that. I just think people maybe within the realms of like action cinema and the sort of satire of like the fascist state and the sort of the military-industrial complex, people were more prepared to stomach that critique maybe on the basis of the subject matter.
Yeah.
But I think like, by and large, his films, they sort of stray very close to that sort of kitsch naffness, which is sort of so central to the world that he's trying to sort of not make light of, but satirize.
Yeah.
And I think I'm fully in agreement with you. I think it seems like we are with this film, which is which is good.
Yeah.
But you know, I really loved the movie a lot. And I really like a lot of his films, and I feel like even like I think about like American Gigolo, which is another film that is sort of again has a similar relationship in terms of like audience and critical reception. People are very split on it again, and that's just like another film that is, you know, it wears its heart on its sleeve in sort of portraying that sort of 80s excess and all that sort of stuff. And I can completely understand why some people might be turned off by that.
There are some naff moments in it. Like I'll kind of, just to play devil's advocate a little bit, because on this sort of really recent rewatch, her performance is all over the place, and it's meant to be like Verhoeven has admitted he told her to do that. Yeah. He told her to be manic and unpredictable, and I don't think that aspect is probably what lets it down for me a little bit. It's just too much. Yeah. I think even though, like what you were saying about the kitschness, like it is, her performance is on another level even to that for me.
Oh wow, okay.
That I think just sort of disrupted my sort of viewing experience ever so slightly. But what I think the film does really well, and you were saying this earlier to me, Alex, was the fact that it could be seen as a kind of comment on male behaviour and the kind of lecherous nature of Las Vegas. And I think Verhoeven's really good at, in general, across all of his work, he's really good at analysing that. Like, I mean, Hollow Man does that quite a lot. Have you guys seen Hollow Man?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and he's just fascinated with male behaviour. Think back to like Basic Instinct and the infamous sort of leg uncrossing scene. If you watch the men are all sweaty messes in that. Like it isn't. Yeah, it's sort of like overtly exploitative a little bit, and you know the scene's famous for the content, but the reactions I think are what's key to that scene. Sorry, I've gone off a bit of a tangent.
No, yeah, it's good, man.
There you go. That's what I think of Verhoeven. I think he's just fascinated with male behaviour and sort of how uncomfortable it is.
Yeah.
Do you think there's an element of like his other films also being quite satirical and having a commentary, like you were mentioning, like RoboCop and Starship Troopers? But if you wanted to switch off your brain and just watch that, you know,
there's two ways to watch them, right?
Yeah. You can watch RoboCop as
way.
an action film. You can watch Starship Troopers is just a sci-fi film, and if you don't want to read into it, you don't have to.
That's how I enjoyed Starship Troopers as a kid. I shouldn't have been watching it probably as a kid, but I enjoyed it on its surface level value. Even now, I can enjoy it that way.
Some good crash zooms in that film.
Oh yeah, and the model work in that movie. And everything.
VFX for '97.
You're right. Yeah.
But do you feel like maybe Showgirls is it's such its own beast that you can't really categorize it as like, oh, it's just a I don't even know what you would call it. Is it like a dance movie? I don't know. That's the thing. It's such a wacky out there film that it doesn't lie within one genre like maybe his other films do, and that's why maybe they were more widely accepted. Because if you don't want to read into this film, then it's just absolutely bizarre.
Yeah.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
But that also appeals to me as well.
I'm completely with you. I think it is like you say, that idea about male behaviour. I think that's a real strong theme in the film. That and the sort of just the Las Vegas itself, you know, is a really sort of
a pinnacle of American sort of ideology.
Yeah, like you can go and make your millions. But I mean, I've never been. I think you haven't you?
I've not been to Vegas.
Have you not been to Vegas? You've been to LA.
I've been to New York and Baltimore, which all contain a sort of similar ideology, but I think it's most concentrated.
LA is hyper, it's hyper concentrated, isn't it? I mean, I remember a couple of my friends went, and they've just said like the sort of the stark contrast between like the sort of wealth and those that have sort of failed in the pursuit of that wealth is so obvious. Like from the outside.
I remember I went to LA probably about 10 years ago, and it is bizarre because you have this idea of Hollywood in your mind. And it is not. It's quite a sleazy place in a way. Those areas of it anyway. And it very much is a working town. And I guess in the same way that kind of Vegas is maybe depicted in this.
It all surrounds one industry, doesn't it? The same way LA is, was built for the film industry. Las Vegas is built for the gambling industry, right? So
everybody's selling their soul.
Like everyone goes there explicitly to try and sort of improve their life through that, whatever it is the dominant industry in that area is, right? And with gambling itself, it's the return, the promise of a high return is what draws you in, right? I mean,
I think he's really good at deconstructing that. And sort of it being a low-key critique of America. And a lot of Americans don't like critiques of America. Like, Americans hate Team America. So I think maybe that might have contributed to its downfall a little bit. And
he's foreign. He's Dutch, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the idea of a foreigner going, your country's got its problems. It's probably not. It's not going to chime well, is it, with a sort of mainstream audience? Particularly those who are going expecting seeing someone from Saved by the Bell and thinking maybe there's going to be some sort of thematical through line here.
It made itself an easy target with the NC-17 rating and the kind of exploitation angle that it took as well. It did make it an easy target for people that were already outraged about the fact that it was a negative comment on America. So, No.
And there is so much nudity that you become numb to the nudity.
Oh, completely.
As well. I can see why some people might be put out by that as well.
After that first dance where Berkeley does to Carl McLachlan, that's it.
Oh, I forgot he was in it.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's in it.
Yeah, he's in it loads. Yeah.
His fake tan.
Yeah, and Spider-Man free haircut as well.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. Fuck. God.
He famously did not enjoy the film, if I remember rightly, and I think he said, I might be absolutely just bullshitting right now, but I think he said something along the lines of like he was sold on this being a different kind of film, and I think maybe Verhoeven played a part in maybe manipulating his performance to feel like it was something else.
Yeah,
right. Okay.
Yeah. I'd like him in it. I think he's funny. Fantastic.
He's great, I think he's really good.
God, it's really annoying when you forget something as key as that.
But he said that someone asked him why he walked out of the premiere, and he was like, I didn't. I wish I fucking did though. So he wasn't that.
I remember
keen
reading
on it.
that. Yeah,
I think he's probably quite keenly aware of the reaction going on around him. He's like, oh, I'm in this. So I think I've listened to him in a podcast since, and he's warmed to it a bit. Like, it was a fan talking to him about Showgirls, and he was like quite pleased about the kind of the cult status of it. So there we go.
Yeah, because there are like screenings now. You can go along, and everybody is talking along to the dialogue.
Yeah, kind of like a Rocky Horror.
Yeah,
thing
the Rocky Horror thing. There's a bit of a status around it.
Doggy chow thing that you texted yesterday.
There's a good documentary as well on the kind of reaction to it and like how it's kind of turned around into a cult status film called You Don't Know Me.
Yes.
You Don't Know Me.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a really interesting documentary, so I recommend.
I've not seen that actually. Yeah. Okay. It sort of strays that line, doesn't it? I think Verhoeven does it in the same way that like a lot of exploitation cinema works. You know, it's criticising something, but you know the reality is in the pursuit of that and sort of submerging yourself and a lot of the themes and ideas around that, you're going to just lose a lot of people. And that's not like necessarily a criticism of those people that don't want to engage with it. It's just I think it's a shame if you don't try at least.
Yeah.
And good. That's a great start.
Thank you. I do love that film. I
do. Yeah. So when you said Showgirls, I was like, fuck yeah. What a movie. I mean, I forgot Carl McLachlan was in it, but I do like it.
You can't forget the Versace or Versace. Obviously.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. Whenever I see it, I can't not think of that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Nice. Right, go on then, Chris.
That's a tough act to follow, I must admit. Mine is not as, I wouldn't say has the cult status that Showgirls has, or it even was as polarizing, but was met with a little bit of a damp response. Not angry, neither was it enthusiastic. It just kind of came out, and it was a shame because I really love this movie. And it's the Wachowski sisters film Cloud Atlas from 2012.
Oh, okay. Wow, nice. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
which is a nearly 3-hour other type of epic, which I was a really big fan of the book when I was growing up. I thought it was really fascinating. It's a sort of story about reincarnation and how the acts of our ancestors can kind of impact the future and then change things as they go. And the story kind of focuses on 3 periods of past, present, and future. And we dance between those plot lines as we go along. And the book is very interesting because while this movie has a bit more of a Game of Thrones kind of style to like how it plays with narrative, it jumps around a lot. The book is literally past, present, future in that order. And it actually changes the dialogue. So when you're reading the book, when it's set in the past, they use old English text. When you're in the future, they actually try to invent new sort of types of language. They kind of do that with the movie too, and that's probably where it lost a lot of people. But it's really hard not to get just swept away by what the Wachowskis can do here. They wear their hearts on their sleeves as filmmakers, and I think that even the later Matrix films are guilty of that, even though I still love them for that purpose. So yeah, I mean, have you guys seen it before?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you I don't know if you feel the same way, but I just find the whole narrative sweep of it, it's not intoxicating in the way that there's a lot of depth in the story, but the aesthetic appeal and, you know, the score that kind of runs with the film just kind of takes you along for this ride, and you can't help but feel kind of wrapped up in its sort of sentimental view of love conquers all, which is, I think, is a narrative theme in all of their films. So yeah, I think it's completely overlooked. It's an independent film, probably the most ambitious visually independent film ever made. And every time I watch it, I'm enthralled again. I kind of fall in love with it.
I've only seen it once. I'd like to see it again, actually.
Yeah, it's a good pick. It's got some questionable performances. I mean, you got Tom Hanks in prosthetic being like an Irish gangster at one point, throwing people off balconies. You've got Hugo Weaving playing like a matron of a residential home. But you know, it all kind of comes together oddly. And I mean, it started Hugh Grant's kind of grumpy period of playing villains. So I thank it for that also. But yeah, I love this thing.
I remember having a really good soundtrack.
Yes,
or score even, I should say.
Yeah, Tom Tykwer, who co-directs with the Wachowski sisters, did the score as well. Yeah, and it has this. It's called the Cloud Atlas Sextet, which is this.
That's the one I like.
Yes, and it basically is the whole soundtrack of the film. The film feels like a gigantic trailer for a film you'll never get, which sounds very surface level, but it's part of the appeal. And you're like, I've never known a film to get away with giving me so little, but I got so much out of it. So
I completely get where you're coming from. Like, there's something about those sort of swinging for the fences sort of sci-fi movies.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I think that's something they've never compromised as filmmakers, and they don't get enough credit for, and they do it with like the backing of these massive studios. They do it off the backing of their own initial success. And I'm always excited for a Wachowski film.
I feel like there's a lot in their kind of film history that probably could be similarly kind of viewed, like Speed Racer. I don't think
the tides have turned in that one too.
Like there's a big kind of cult following behind Speed Racer.
I've not seen that actually.
No, a lot of people say it's really good, and no one watched it at the time. So yeah, exactly. You're right.
I don't think anybody's doing it for Jupiter Ascending potentially.
We'll see.
You never know.
I mean, that is
might be too early.
That is pushing it.
It does have its defenders too, but yeah, not as many.
Not as many. But yeah, there's obviously a big kind of with the later Matrix films, there is kind of a two-sided feeling on those films as well. It doesn't seem to be some people who like it. It is a case of you either love it or you hate it. So I think they're interesting directors for that reason, really. You could probably just throw a dart at any of their films and it's a film that somebody would die on a hill for. So
yeah, that's a great pick for that reason, I think.
I feel like with Cloud Atlas, again, I'm playing devil's advocate again. Apologies. What it needed and what it didn't have was that everything everywhere all at once thing of there being a singular start, right? Because it does the thing.
It's way more sprawling.
Like it doesn't have that sort of anchor.
Yes,
it is massively sprawling.
All the narrative threads like go in different directions from minute one. Well, it's sort of bookended by like a grandfather in the future telling a campfire story, and
that's true.
And the movie ends that way.
I forgot about that bit.
But you do forget about it. At the end of the film, it ends that way by finishing the story, and you're like, oh yeah, okay.
They run out of money, and they were like, let's just film this on the beach. I'm sure the novel has that as well. But and also the Jim Broadbent bit, I'd remember.
Oh, I really like the residential home stuff.
Do you? Okay, I wasn't that keen on
it. But the sci-fi stuff is so breathtaking, like the future Neo Tokyo stuff, or Neo Seoul, sorry, South Korea, is so breathtaking, even by today's standards. Some of the images are like could give Denis Villeneuve a run for his money, and just to think they were doing this in 2012, and I'd never seen anything that looked this great before. Even though you get small glimpses of it, I just like, there's so much of this world that is fully realized, almost like a George Miller project where things are well thought out, but they're in the background, and they can almost sort of exist in their own worlds if they had the time to. But yeah, nobody overthinks like the Wachowskis in terms of like, even down to like the smallest vehicle in the background in the street that nobody pays attention to other than me. There's plenty of depth to be found there, even if the narrative is not the strong suit of the film. Which I agree with you.
But that's I think that's part of it, though. I think you're onto something there. I'm not considering that light, the sort of the background nature of it, and it sort of complements that sort of vagueness. Like I love like a sort of vague, sprawling sci-fi. Like I don't care if the narrative doesn't really necessarily make sense. I mean, I don't remember being that hot on the film when I saw it, but thinking about it through this way, in the way you've sort of set it up in your intro to the film, like I don't know, like that appeals to me more. This idea about
it's so earnest that you cannot be. You it's like kicking a puppy if you're mad at this movie. It's so trying to be. It's like a Richard Curtis film as a weird equivalent. Like, yes, they're phony, right? But I can tell this comes from a real, genuine place. Yeah, and that sometimes comes through in the filmmaking so hard that I'm feeling it too.
So, fair play, man.
I think even with like the latest Matrix film, it's like you got to give it credit for the fact that they went for that kind of vision that they had, and they didn't compromise.
We saw that together.
Yeah, we did see that together.
I remember you dropping me off at home, and
they did not compromise, and people turned up for the wrong movie. I love that movie as well.
I really like it. I really admired it. I felt it's just a bit of a segue, but I sort of felt it was the sort of critique of the industry and about the nature of like sort of rehashing and sequels was a bit rich. Yeah, given the basis, the film didn't really do much to sort of reinvent what the Matrix always was. It very much played on the nostalgic element, but I think it did enough with it. And I think it goes back to you saying before in relation to Cloud Atlas, like there's an earnestness there that sells it. Yeah, like even if you're like you have critical reservations about some of the thematic elements of their films, like they fucking managed to win you over by just being so fucking earnest about it.
Yes,
yeah.
Yeah, good to see a kind of $100+ million budget put towards an original idea. Well, not an original. It's based on a novel, but not a franchise.
It's kind of similar to Dune in that way, where people thought this was an unfilmable book. Reading that, it comes through, but they did a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Nice.
ASMR for you there.
We're in for it now.
So my
You've been torn.
My pick is the 2002 chilly thriller starring Richard Gere and Laura Linney, The Mothman Prophecies.
Wow.
How many of you... Has any of you seen this film?
I haven't.
No.
Yeah, didn't. Okay, no. This is good. I'm glad because, in a way, because
I'm ready to be converted.
I feel like I've seen this type of Laura Linney film a lot.
Yeah. There's a lot of these that came out in the sort of 2000s, early 2000s, and they're just like it's very much a product of its time, of just kind of the chilly American supernatural thriller, and there was certainly a type of those that came out, and then they sort of waned towards the end of the 2000s. But like, what I love about this particular one is that no one's seen it ever. Like I have never met anyone that's watched it.
This episode being a case in point. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But everyone should, because it's an exercise in using style and editing, and post-production, something that I like kind of personally love, to create an atmosphere, a really, really quite incredibly eerie atmosphere, and it does kind of come through. The same way, that Brazilian birthday party bit in Signs is quite chilly.
Oh, yeah.
It's sort of a psychological horror feeling. I think it's quite unique, and this is like so good for that. It's just like, I'll kind of give you a basic idea of the plot. It sounds naff, because it kind of is. It does sort of fall into that category of kind of forgettable American thrillers. But anyway, Richard Gere plays a journalist who is buying a house with his wife, and he's on the way home. They have a car accident, and she smashes her head against the side of the car.
Shit.
Yeah, and it turns out
Was it because Richard had hamsters? Not confirmed.
No.
We can confirm nor deny Richard Gere. It was hamsters, wasn't it?
Or gerbils, I can't remember. Yeah,
Fucking hell.
What's the difference between a hamster and a gerbil?
gerbils are slightly bigger, so I
well,
kind of
brave of
prefer it to
him.
be hamsters.
Carry on, sorry.
No, you're right. The reason why she sort of swerves is because she sees this like horrible figure, this kind of it's the Mothman, which sounds shit. I know, I'm aware that it sounds really lame, but the way the film presents it is actually quite horrifying, and it's one of those films where you don't see a lot of the creature. It's quite good in that, and I think not enough films are using that kind of method of. Even you could even argue that Alien kind of spaffs it all out at the end when you just see it completely.
Yeah.
And it does ruin the illusion. And I like films, I like particularly horror films where the antagonist has the upper hand right through to the end. And this film's really good for it as well. So anyway, like 2 years pass, Richard Gere's wife has died because they found a tumour in her brain, which apparently is like an ant's nest. So once you hit your head, it spreads really fast. It kind of becomes like one of those campfire tales, of people getting abducted by aliens or something. And it has that vibe about it. He goes to this town. He's been driving for like 2 hours, but actually he's arrived at a location 6 hours from where he was, right? And it's just him trying to figure out, A, what happened to his wife, and B, what's going on in this town. Where a lot of people have sort of been experiencing sort of visions and strange occurrences and stuff, and like I don't know, I can't recommend it enough. If you want to kind of be low key, there's no jump scares in it. It's one of those like sit back and sort of let the atmosphere, which is achieved through the editing, the sound design's really, really good, cinematography's fantastic. It's got that grainy, horrible aesthetic and great music, just really, really encapsulating atmosphere. And it's all done through post, and that's what I love about it. So yeah, go and watch it. I've talked about this film quite a lot already now, but
Wow.
yeah, I don't know if you guys have any other examples of like films that are made by the edit. I don't know.
Well, it kind of reminded me of a film that we actually watched together because you recommended it to me, Ben. But Lake Mungo.
Oh my god!
And I was thinking there's definitely a theme there of kind of really unnerving films that aren't scary in a way, like you said, like jump scares and stuff like that, but they just kind of get under your skin.
Yes,
so
exactly.
I feel like maybe that's something you quite like.
If it's difficult to achieve, I think unusually difficult because it's so easy to get wrong, and it's so easy. I think there's a real fine line between it being like laughable and really good, and the title doesn't help. It's a naff title.
It is, yeah. It's not very marketable, yeah.
Yeah, Richard Gere, potentially, he doesn't need to be in it. It could have been anyone, I feel. He's actually a bit old.
When did this film come out?
2002.
So 2002, Richard Gere, he's not hot then, is he really?
He's getting on a bit. Like I mean, he's sort of got that Silver Foxy sort of thing going on about him, but him and Laura Linney have like a sort of there's a slight vibe going on there, which works for the 2002 era. But
it's a great era for this kind of
It is a very ambiguous title. Before you explain to me, this is almost like a monster flick. I thought it was going to be like a detective sort of, the diaries element is quite thrilling. So probably why do you think then, me playing devil's advocate this time, I haven't seen the film, someone has to take the role, Ben. Why do you think then it kind of slipped through the net then? What sort of arguments do you think people had that maybe prevented this film to be a cult classic that you sort of deemed it to be?
No, it's a good question. I think Richard Gere and Laura Linney weren't necessarily, I mean, especially Gere, they wasn't necessarily known for that kind of film. Like, he'd just done Primal Fear and all that kind of stuff. Okay. And so there might have been an expectation there for audiences that wasn't met. Not a lot of people, I think I personally put a lot more merit on things like editing, and like there's some really crazy transitions in this. Like, I don't know how they managed it, but it's just like it's an extraordinary achievement, but it's hard to explain why. Because
unless you sort of have a personal or professional interest in that field as you do.
Yeah,
on both accounts. It's a hard sell to like a general film watcher to say, well, the editing's good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that famous line, good editing, you don't see it, right? Like most people watch films, the general public watch it either without knowing that sort of statement or not. They don't.
This is the sort of film that would have survived via the 2002 blockbuster market. People picking it up and putting it on for it's I can see it on the shelf there. I can see that. I probably walk past it. There's a place for those sort of movies, and I like that. Yeah,
I'd be really, really interested if even if the next few years, if you just have an evening that you're like, I want to be low key terrified.
I'm convinced.
Give it a go, because it is. There's the acting in it isn't the best, but it has the ability, like you say, Alex, and like Lake Mungo did as well. It just gets under your skin. There's something quite unpleasant about the vibe that it gives off, and right till the end as well. There's not like a big showdown at the end where he Richard Gere pummels Mothman to death. It's like Mothman in the film exists.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to watch that as well.
Just turns the light off.
But no, it exists as this kind of like horrific entity, just that's kind of that you don't really see, and that is, you don't even really know what its objectives are. And I just think it's fantastic. I think it's really, really like a really underrated hidden gem that's currently on ITVX. So, no excuse, boys.
That's it, Maybe we'll have to stop watching
my chosen platform.
But for me, it's for all the Peter Andre content. But I might move away from Richard Gere. Okay, I'll do that. What is it you think about the early 2000s, particularly like American cinema, that there seemed to be that vibe? Because what was the name of that Ang Lee film? I know it's not supernatural, but it has a similar sort of. I'm sort of imagining the color palette now, but like. The one about the families,
the Ice Storm.
The Storm, it's called. Is it called the Ice Storm?
It's called the Ice Storm.
Yeah.
Another Elijah Wood film.
There you go. You see, but I just feel like there's a certain era of these kinds of movies, and I wonder why we think that is. Is it like a post 9/11 thing?
I was about to say that. Yeah, it was a bit of a nihilistic sort of standpoint on the world. I think it was and post Donnie Darko, and a lot of people trying to follow the form of that film a lot. I think there's
actually Mothman and Donnie Darko share it's got
that was
similar
the first film that came to mind from the way you described it. Like
even the title card looks similar to the Donnie Darko poster.
Okay.
So that's interesting.
It's strange that it's. I mean, obviously every sort of era is gripped by a certain genre, and I feel like this kind of genre sort of floated under the.
Yeah, I feel like it might even be something to do with the fact that there was a new millennium and everyone had high expectations. The same as every single year. It's that classic thing of people making New Year's resolutions which are unachievable. People probably had that same.
A new sort of technological dawn that never happened.
And you wake up and you're like, it's the same as yesterday.
Same old shit.
So there's a sort of air of disappointment which probably led to a lot of filmmakers feeling quite drab and chilly. There you go.
I've forgotten all the films, but what was the film we watched? The Arnie Y2K film where he fights the devil.
Oh, yes. That was a great film.
I really liked that.
Was that the one you were telling me he fights Miriam Margolyes?
Yes.
Yeah. That has jumped immediately to the top of my list of must watch.
I really liked it.
I did.
I really liked it.
End of Days.
Okay.
End of Days.
There's one with Julianne Moore called The Forgotten, which is another example of one of those.
Arnie in that one?
No, unfortunately not.
Does he fight the devil? Or if he's not in it, he wouldn't, would he?
No.
Do you think as well, maybe this will play into more of our discussions later, looking at cinema at a wider landscape, but like these kind of mid-budget films or like lower mid-budget films just don't really get made anymore.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Or they get made by Netflix and they look like shit.
Yeah, they tank and they just kind of disappear, which is a lot easier than if you have a theatrical release. Butterfly Effect is another good one.
Ashton Kutcher.
Yes.
Yeah, I've
it's
seen
just
that
one of those. It's like you say, post Donnie Darko, even maybe.
Yeah,
just there's a string of them.
That film's a lot more sadistic, though. That's almost a hard watch.
Yeah, at points. Yeah,
burning dogs and things like that.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh yeah. There's a good moment in that when he smacks someone in the cinema with. He goes to a cinema and one of the kids smacks someone with one of those like metal poles. And right at that, again, another editing moment. Right when it connects, it goes slow mo. and you see this kind of 10-year-old with this grizzled expression. I don't know why it just always sticks in my mind. Anyway, segue.
Cinema highlights.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. I just sort of before we move on, I sort of think it's interesting to chime in on that point of that sort of Y2K anxiety, because I can really remember it so vividly. I remember, I think I was living in Ilfracombe at the time, and I remember lying down on the sofa thinking, "This is the end."
Oh,
do you know what I mean? I was as a child, I was always I was a bit morbid as a child.
Yeah.
You know, I just bought into this idea that it was all going to be over.
Yeah.
It was, and I guess for like a lot of people, it was like it's all going to be over, or it's like a technological dawn, or something's going to happen, and the increase in expectations. And you know, we talk about end of days. I mean, that very much talks about the sort of apocalyptic concern of the new millennia. But I like the idea of that sort of the disappointment at it just being the same, which was obviously going to happen. But for a lot of people, there was this heightened expectation, and maybe that's the reason these films were so sort of ubiquitous for that short period of time.
Yeah, just I mean, they're almost humorless. I mean, I don't know about End of Days, but they're very devoid of anything colourful.
It does take itself quite seriously, actually.
It's not. Yeah, it is played quite straight for the most part, isn't it?
That's part of the joy of it, though. Isn't it?
It is.
Gabriel Byrne, fucking hell, he goes big.
Yeah.
He was a real king of those sort of movies in the early 2000s, like Stigmata.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, I kind of have. I do love those because for some reason they're all quite well put together and edited. And they've all got quite fancy title sequences, Mothman included. Shout out to Mothman and Prophecy's title sequence. Danny, what's your pick?
So my pick is a film that I sort of went into not really expecting a great deal. I think you guys had seen it first, and you didn't. I don't think you disliked it, but you didn't necessarily shower it with praise.
Okay.
And for that reason alone, I was a bit unsure. But it's Life Force.
Oh,
Toby Hooper's Life Force.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
I have not. It's actually been on my list for a while to see, but no, I haven't actually seen it.
Seen it?
No.
Oh man. Okay. Cool. Because
yeah.
Because it was you and Lee, I think, that told me about it originally.
Yeah.
And I was like, this was like at the sort of start of my Canon films sort of obsession, because I've always loved those kinds of films, and I'm particularly fascinated about Canon films. Obviously, we talked about this in our Canon films episode, but like how they, as a company, existed on the basis that they made a lot of these like very right-wing action films, because I think that was broadly the ideological stance of the company. But they, commercially speaking and thematically speaking, went across lots of different films and lots of different genres, and they made all sorts of really weird stuff that I just can't think of another production company having this sort of exhaustive and broad range. I mean, that's fucking Jean-Luc Godard on the books for a film. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's weird that a company can simultaneously have Chuck Norris, Jean-Luc Godard on the books. But, anyway, so the film is directed by Tobe Hooper of Texas Chainsaw Massacre fame. For those that listen, you know how much that film means to me. I think it's one of the greatest films ever made. And then he directed the sequel, which I also really like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, obviously. And that's that sort of springboarded his collaboration with Canon Films, and he signed like a multi-picture deal, and he made a few films, and this is one of them. And it's the plot, sort of loosely, it's about space vampires.
Nice.
And the space vampires attack London and turn people into zombies, right?
Yeah, that's right. And there's a sort of it does a sort of it follows thing, but before it follows, obviously. There's a sort of idea that you pass on this vampiric or sort of zombie virus through having sex. And much like your pick, Alex, this film is chock full of nudity.
Oh yeah, there's loads of it. You'll love it.
She's wandering around like this sort of slabs, just like totally naked. The majority of the film, and that's what I remember from it mostly. If I'm being honest, but I do. Oh yeah, sorry.
It's cool, man. I just love it. I think it's written by or co-written by Dan O'Bannon, who wrote Alien.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So already, like, if you sort of throw his name into the mix, there's this sort of sense of prestige. Because obviously Alien is like, the granddaddy of sci-fi horror films. Like, there's not really a film, certainly sort of in terms of like broad appeal, that comes close. And that's marginally a fair assumption, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I think what Tobe Hooper's so good at doing is that he sort of takes these sort of lofty ideas. It's a very sort of lofty film. It's beautifully designed. It's beautifully shot. But he also adheres to the Cannon films vibe simultaneously.
Yeah.
So there's like a sort of duality to the film. On the one hand, there's this sort of sci-fi loftiness that reaches for the heights of like, you know, early Ridley Scott or like Steven Spielberg, which I think Tobe Hooper sort of like uses, particularly Spielberg. He did
Poltergeist, didn't he?
Poltergeist, of course, yeah, it's the crossover. Of course, I forgot about that. And then he did Invaders from Mars, as well, a remake again with Cannon films, and that's like so Spielbergian, but like just through this sort of the naff prism of Cannon films. But it's, you know, it's totally worth it. Like, I know that with Cannon films there is a sort of stigma. Sometimes it's definitely earned because some of their films are so fucking shit, it's unreal. But like they're good ones. Like, I don't know, like I just think that the film walks this fine line between this sort of highbrow sci-fi and also being simultaneously like sort of this deliriously enjoyable celebration of what cool cinema is really about. I think at least the set, because I know cult's a very loose term, but it's certainly in the idea of like so naff is good.
Yeah.
And I think it has worth in both, and I think the way it amalgamates both of these ends of the cultural spectrum is, I think it absolutely nails it personally. I'm biased because I love Cannon films and I love Tobe Hooper, but definitely worth it. Plus Patrick Stewart's in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart's in it. And also the lot of the film, or the latter half of the film's in London. It's sort of English.
It is a lot,
film.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did wonder because obviously the poster is very sci-fi and all that kind of stuff. So when you said vampires in London, I was like, wait, that's not
that's not what the poster's telling me.
The poster is so misleading.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that's kind of Cannon films bread and butter a little bit as well, I think.
Absolutely.
I love the poster. It's an eye, isn't it?
It's like the life force being drained from him.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, baby.
I think the viewing that I had that you're talking about, Danny, with Dan and Lee and Alfie, I think we were too keen on laughing at it. And
which you can do though.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying I'm not saying that attitude towards it doesn't have its merit, because that goes to I think when we look back at Cannon films, in the same way we sort of look back at quite a lot of films from the 80s more broadly, is that you know, there is, you know, it is a reflection of the sort of the excess of the time.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I think the reason why Cannon films is such a standard bearer of the time is because these are two guys that come to America, buy into the idea of the American dream. I mean, they're both from Israel. You know, they buy into the idea of the American dream and they just fucking double down on it with their films. And all of their films are ridiculously excessive in every conceivable way, you know. Even the ones that have got obviously no money behind them whatsoever in the sort of later Cannon films. But I don't know, like, so I'm not saying that like people sitting down laughing at it is like not a totally valid thing to do.
Well, it's funny because we expected to laugh more, and I think we were disappointed that it wasn't that. It was actually quite, it was trying. And I've seen it again since, and I was more kind of keen on it for some reason, and like
because I was bang on about it.
Well, I mean, it was partially that. I remember you mentioning it, and I thought I must rewatch Life Force. And also, it's a fascinating story, and a lot of Cannon films are in that. A lot of people had a lot of high hopes for it, and invested a lot of money into.
It was an expensive movie for Cannon. Yeah,
it was like touted as the next Alien, like you say, basically. And when it wasn't that, they were quite. Gutted.
They were. I mean, but that speaks more broadly to the sort of attitude of the sort of Golan and Globus, the owners of Cannon more broadly, is that they seldom had like an original idea. They would like just jump on what was the dominant cultural sort of wave of the time and then make pale imitations of those films. And sometimes they work, like, and I think this is an example of that. And it works better because of films that Alien, which obviously is a better movie.
Yeah.
But like it works better because there are better films that this film is trying to copy or ape, and it works better for it. The Alien exists, even though Alien is better. I don't know how if you guys can figure that out, because I can't. But I don't know. Really, I think it's excellent.
4 very different picks.
Yeah.
Has anyone got any honourable mentions? I've got quite a few actually.
Oh yeah.
Shall I start?
Go on, yeah. Start this round robin off.
Just really quickly, because I could delve into all of these with quite a lot of significance.
You looked very intense when you just said that.
yeah.
So I've gone for 2 Danny Boyle films.
Of course.
Let's get these out of the way.
Yeah.
I think The Beach is great. I think Sunshine is great. A lot of people love Sunshine now.
I like Sunshine. I like Sunshine. Yeah.
Did you watch the outdoor screening that happened in Falmouth?
Yeah, The Beach. Yeah. I thought it was an excellent choice.
Yes, it was great.
I think a lot of people shit on The Beach for being a kind of... and it is a kind of DiCaprio vehicle from like post... He'd just done Titanic, right? But I actually think it's quite a good adaptation of the book.
Yeah.
And I wish Ewan McGregor was in it, but like I just think it's really, really entertaining. Really good. Again, I'll say it again. A really good soundtrack. Like it's got Moby and it's got a lot of this kind of dance trancey classics, which I personally love.
Boyle's good at utilising that kind of music.
Soundtracks, he's very zeitgeisty in that respect.
Totally. Yeah.
Alien Autopsy at the actor.
I
Ant
like that
Fucking
film.
hell, yeah, man. I would defend that film.
Mate, I mean, do you know what? I remember this is a bit of just an offshoot, but we used to go to a friend's house to get stoned all the time, and he always had it on his DVD shelf. And I had seen it before. I just look at it and think, what the fuck is that doing there?
Yeah, I haven't thought about that film in so long.
And
What a
then
bizarre,
Jack.
Yeah, man. They're
events.
all right actors. they're not bad.
Is that
it?
like? Is that sort of like? I know this film preceded the release of the film I'm going to mention, but is this our sort of answer to Paul? Is Alien Autopsy?
Yeah. Absolutely,
Thank God for Ant and Deck.
Oh man, I just like it. I just think it's entertaining, and I think it's one of those films which you see who's in it, and you think, because obviously Ant and Deck, they're sort of plastered all over British television, and they're very much that kind of the TV personality. And then you watch it, like there's some gusto in this. Like they've tried to make a good film out of this, and there's some moments of like with genuine dramatic weight, and you're like, what am I watching? It's like you're watching something with like Kerry Katona or something, and that's making you cry.
It's like is Kerry Katona in it?
No, I wish she was. Yeah,
when I went to a showcase.
Yes.
Yeah, you were there that day.
I was there that day.
Yeah. Did you speak to her?
No, I didn't. Actually, I feel like she might have handed me a balloon.
I
know that's weird, but
It was National Free Balloon Day.
Yeah, she had a balloon that she wanted to be like put behind so she could watch film with the kids.
Oh yeah.
That's a weird anecdote. Kerry Katona handed me a balloon.
Yeah, I remember. It's weird. Yeah, we both. Yeah, for the listeners, we both used to work at Showcase together, and Kerry Katona came in.
Yes,
probably the defining moment of my life. Actually.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I got the feeling you were just saying that to feel bad. Yeah. Sorry about me completely derailed you.
All good. No. Then finally, I'll say Lady in the Water.
Wow. Okay.
Quite like
Shyamalan?
it. Yeah, quite like it. I don't know why. Again, James Newton Howard did a really good job with this with the music in it, and but the film, I mean, it's got its problems. I know it's got its problems.
Every Shyamalan film does, but that's part of the joy, right?
Well, this is it. Like, I can overlook those problems. Like, I can overlook the problems in like Signs and Unbreakable. But for some reason, no one else did. Everyone saw the problems and really attached themselves to this. I haven't really admitted this to a lot of people, actually. It's slightly shameful, but I will.
I love that Alien Autopsy isn't.
Yeah.
And I'm not judging you with that. I love you for that. And
I'm glad I mentioned that one, actually.
Yeah.
There we go. They're my honourable mentions.
Nice. Go on then, Chris. What are yours?
Okay, I'm thinking. I was thinking about this the other day, and I really like Phantom Menace. Which I feel like people always say of all the prequels, Revenge of the Sith is the one that people agree it has its fun. It's an opera of sorts, but Phantom Menace has a real quality to it. It's the only one of the prequels that's shot in film, and I think it has.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh,
the other two were digital. Yeah.
It's like one of the last kind of movies of that period to be truly shot that way, and also it's just a defining moment for George Lucas to kind of be obviously doing something brand new with special effects and completely puncturing the cultural bubble of expectation of what his new trilogy was going to be. But I mean, Phantom Menace talk to death, isn't it? But I really enjoyed that film. I do think the Darth Maul sequence is really cool and kind of the only thematic
Duel of the Fates,
punch.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell.
Oh.
That is the best Star Wars song.
Yeah, of course.
Right? I mean, I'm not even that into Star Wars, but when I hear that, I go, oh, yes.
I occasionally play it in the car
Before I go to a motorway.
before I go to the gym.
Oh, get you ready for it.
It is a motivator. It is a motivator.
There's no judgment, yeah.
So yeah, I really like that movie. This one's going to make me really unpopular. It has a lot of problems. I really like 2007's Wild Hogs.
Oh,
That is
shit.
that's a curveball.
That is a deep cut.
I know that's deep
Fuck.
cut. I think it's got 19% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was
so's the beach, so it's okay.
it was. I like the beach as well, but it is critically panned. It is a proper dad movie to end all dad movies, but it focuses on 4 essential performances: John Travolta, Tim Allen, Martin Lawrence, and William H. Macy, and I think they're kind of the thing that gets me through the journey. Is they kind of seem like they're having fun.
Yeah, okay.
While there's some terrible moments, I actually think that, the movie does not play well now because there's moments of homophobia that really do not play well today at all. But the rest of the film's just kind of a fun ride. I enjoy it. We got Ray Liotta chewing the scenery up occasionally. It's a real shameful one, but I think it's worth mentioning because it's if we're talking about films we'd die in a hill for it, I wouldn't die in a hill for it. I mean, I get it. It's not great, but I like it. It's like City Slickers, but on motorbikes.
Nice.
Nice.
Fine. Fair play. Yeah. Go on, Alex.
All right, mine might be kind of telling for my kind of terrible taste. Spider-Man 3, I think.
Oh, wow,
is-
okay.
I think it is maybe not as good as 1 and 2, but it is not a bad film. It is still a very good film, and I think it really sticks to Sam Raimi's vision of what Spider-Man is and who Peter Parker is and what Peter Parker would think being cool is.
Referring to the emo phase.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is
Which we all went through. I mean,
exactly, and it's not cool. And I think that's exactly what Peter Parker would think.
Yeah,
he's a deeply
Okay,
uncool
yeah.
person.
I might sort of watch that with that in mind.
Yes,
Yeah.
I always like Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker because,
I do.
because
Yeah.
He's my Peter Parker.
you,
Still.
but also you can fully understand why people would bully him sometimes.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield, like, I wouldn't bully that guy.
No,
I don't know about Tom
Holland,
Holland.
I
He's too
wouldn't.
young. It's difficult. Just
Yeah.
picking on a kid. Then.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
people
yeah.
go, I'm like, yeah, I get it.
There's a deeper well of ethical considerations for bullying Tom Holland.
I think Spider-Man 3 really sticks the landing. I remember the ending being really satisfying for some reason.
It concludes the whole trilogy.
Yeah,
quite nicely,
yeah, it
in a
was
way.
good.
And
Yeah.
it's a shame that Sam Raimi wasn't able to get like his full vision out there because I know he like despised having to put Venom in there and stuff like that.
Yeah, he hated
and I
Venom,
think that's
didn't he?
understandable.
Yeah.
But in terms of like an adaptation, it does work pretty well. I just think people have quite high expectations of Venom going in, but he is,
Topher Grace.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
playing against type there as well, but like Venom is just an aesthetically pleasing character. He's not actually very deep, and I think that's why the Venom films have kind of struggled in that sense as well.
Yeah.
Then if we were sticking in the superhero realm, me and Chris both love this film, Aquaman. I don't know how. I don't think it gets that much hate, but
No,
I do think it's ridiculously silly, and I love it for that reason.
Yeah, funnily enough, when I first bought a large, not this TV, but I bought a 55. I bought a 55 TV, like a big boy, not overcompensating. When I bought it, and I put it in a flat, and our flat was quite small, and my partner Georgia was fucking furious. Like, she was so angry. It's probably the most angry she's ever been with me when I bought a big TV because it just dwarfed the room. And I tried to win her over with Aquaman, which didn't work. But I was like, look at the colours. I mean,
Yeah.
HDR. But I mean, yeah, it is energetic to the point of being nonsensical. It makes no sense. But I kind of with you as far as like the DC superhero films certainly go anyway. At least there's some sort of colour and brightness to it. Yeah.
Not seen it. Maybe I should watch it.
Do you know what? It is a lot of fun.
Watch with company.
Watch it with company.
Okay.
Have a couple of beers. I think that's.
Have you seen is the sequel? I'd like to see
We went to see it recently.
We went to see it. It is also very silly. I don't think it's as good as the first, but it is. It kind of maintains the vibe, I would say.
Yes, I think it does have the pressure of the studio wanting to get it out, and and
Just end this thing.
Yeah, they want to wreck on the whole thing, don't
putting
they?
it to bed. But there's still the fun to be had. It's not awful.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Yeah, it's still inherently very, very silly. And then I think the tides have turned on this one a little bit in a good way. But Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim, I don't think was very well liked at the time.
Yeah.
But I think he is an incredible director. If you watch that film, it's so well done. He has such a great way of kind of showing size,
scale, ground level action as well.
Exactly.
And
just like the mechanics of how that whole kind of weird. The mind linking to the robots and all that kind of stuff with all the great kaiju fights. I think it's really, really fun. Almost just like watching like a Saturday morning cartoon or something. And I think he completely gets the vibe right. And then the final one, which is a bit of a weird one, Cars 3.
Wow.
I've not seen Cars 3.
I think I've seen one Cars film.
Yeah.
But,
I think I saw half of the first one with my nephew, and then I left. I think it was a bad film. But yeah, I remember that. Well, that was the one that got like 38%. It was the first rotten films for Pixar, wasn't it? Notably.
Yeah.
And I think it made money, but it was like the first time people considered them to have fucked up.
Yeah.
Like
the Cars films are very much about selling a product, which was obviously the toy cars, and I think they did well for that reason. The first Cars film I think is excellent. The second one is absolutely rubbish. But I think the third one is a return to form, and I think it was really powerful. And in the good way that Pixar, the good way that Pixar do their thing of kind of making it quite an emotional film. And I did cry at the end.
Cars 3.
Yeah, I cried at the end of Cars 3.
Fair play.
Fair enough, man. No.
It's just it's almost like a carbon copy of the first one, but this time. Lightning McQueen is the mentor.
I'm with you. I really like the first movie, and I like the whole small town setting of it, and like the fish out of water thing that's being done to death. But it's very sweet. But yeah, I can't say I had the same experience with you number 3. I thought it was very like under the radar, and it was very forgettable. I feel definitely better than Cars 2. But because you told me your response to the movie before I'd seen Cars 3, I was like, oh wow, this thing sounds amazing. That sounds like it's going to change my life. And it's like, it's fine.
I maybe put too much expectation on it. I don't know what I was feeling the night I watched it.
Yeah,
maybe I was
melancholy.
But I think I haven't watched it since, so maybe I'm completely wrong. But there's the kind of mental relationship between the new car that's involved in Lightning McQueen.
I can see your eyes going already.
I think it's really sweet, and I really like it. And even though she's going to win in the end, when she does, you're like, they aren't that.
She was a girl car, was she?
She was a girl car.
Political correctness gone mad.
And this was 2016.
Oh wow, there you go.
Cars 3 gone woke.
I don't really have any particular reverence for it, but I'm a hardened, tubby, cynical bastard, so...
Yeah, I've never, the Cars franchise, but it went over my head a little.
Morally
bit,
hard.
But so far, anyway, it's not to say I won't see it at some point.
Just watch 1 and 3, don't,
1 and 3.
2 is,
nice, yeah.
Yeah, I've sort of fallen out of favour with Pixar. I can't stomach it.
I think the last one I really thought was really great was Inside Out, and then after that, it just sort of dropped off for me a little bit for some reason.
Maybe I'll give Cars a go then, just to sort of see if it brings it back for me.
Yeah, I'm worried now.
We'll go on your podcast and we'll start. Before you start.
But maybe it's the same thing with Chris. Maybe I've put too much expectation on it, and maybe that's why I really liked it, because I maybe didn't have the expectation. So maybe just wait until you've forgotten my my review of it.
No, fair enough.
I'm really not selling it. Maybe I went downhill for it now that I'm talking about it.
No, don't back down.
I'm not backing
this is
myself
the whole
on this
point.
one.
Yeah, we're meant to be. We die on a hill for it. it doesn't mean everyone would, I suppose.
Yeah,
Personal
exactly.
to us. then that's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe I needed to rewatch it before I put that out into what.
But that's the great thing about it, isn't it? Like, there's a sense of ownership, which I think is greater. If, like, a film is sort of, like, not... I mean, I guess we all sort of own films in our own way because we perceive them in our own way, and that's how we enjoy them. But if a film is universally panned or disliked or forgotten, as you said in the intro, like, I think there's a sort of sense of ownership and a closeness that you have that you probably don't have with, like, really great films. You know what I mean? Or at least the relationship
You're not able to
different.
share that experience with as many people. Maybe there's a little bit of shame behind that. So you keep it to yourself, but like you're right. There's a sense of ownership and a nostalgia there.
Yeah.
And maybe like something that you're seeing that not everybody else is seeing. So you're like, you don't get it, man. Cars 3 is a masterpiece.
Sort of slumped to the alleyway with a bottle of cider. Like, you don't get it.
Well, we were both working in Toys R Us at that time, and you came in the morning in the staff meeting, and you made that the point of conversation. You just guys, I just saw Cars 3 last night. Wow.
That was a strong move. That was a power move.
And everybody there was captivated. Like, everybody, like, you know, I think everybody went to see the movie after you spoke about it.
Fucking hey, well, you give them some money.
Yeah.
You shill, you corporate shill.
Maybe it was just the hours and hours of like putting out the Cars characters onto shelves and stuff. And I was
watch
like,
your mind.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh god, it's terrible.
Okay, so I didn't actually write them down, but I'm going to say Eraser.
Okay.
Seen Eraser? Arnold Schwarzenegger?
I have not. No.
Good.
Another Schwarzenegger.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So Eraser 96.
Okay.
You know, just like the way you were talking about those, you know, films in the sort of 2000s, those sort of dread-inducing post 9/11 sort of thrillers.
Yeah.
The 90s was just full of those sort of action films that were terrified about technology.
Yeah.
Eraser's just about like heat sensor sniper rifles, and a bit where Arnie shoots a crocodile in the face and says, "Your luggage." So
Beautiful.
cinema history.
Yes.
Cinema peaked.
Yeah. I mean, I have a spot for Arnie, which is probably far too soft. I know Lee's also, you know, is a very similarly, you know, love for Arnie to me. I think we tried to watch together and he fell asleep. Which isn't a shining indictment of the film, is that he is someone that is very, perhaps more so than me, even definitely so, more, you know, comfortable in the world of sort of shit films, and even he fell asleep. So I don't know what that says about Eraser. But fucking
I love Commando. That movie's so fun.
Commando for me is like legitimately probably the best action film of all time.
Yeah.
Bar maybe Hard Boiled, but you know, I genuinely love it. Genuinely.
I love True Lies. That's one.
True Lies is great. Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis,
Yeah. Arnie's great. Like he is great. Like I like action era Arnie. I don't like. I don't sort of mind modern Arnie now. I didn't like Governor Arnie at all. But you know, like I this period, I don't know. Like obviously, like he's a fading power by this point, and I think it's reflected in the quality of his movies, and that's something that really interests me anyway. The sort of narrative around films often makes me like them more than I probably should. But yeah, great film. The other one was another Canon Films action film, Invasion USA.
Oh yeah,
I've talked about this a lot, so on this podcast, I don't want to just shoehorn it in. I think we were saying before, as we were sort of like, you know, laying out the episode and chatting, catching up. It's you know, Chuck Norris is, ideologically speaking, someone you perhaps shouldn't, if you're of my political persuasion, be that enthusiastic about. And again, a lot of the films he's in also ideologically, you know, as we know, Canon Films made their dollars, you know, selling a political viewpoint that wasn't always conducive to progress. But you know, I think I just love it. I think it's one of the best. You know, it encapsulates that sort of dredges up that Cold War paranoia so well. And his peak, Chuck Norris, double denim. Not his best wardrobe, though.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. What was the film we watched where his wardrobe was really good?
Oh, okay.
The one where the film starts off and they're like bin men. What was that one?
Yes, and it turns into a little bit of RoboCop. At the end, doesn't it, with what was that film?
What's that film called?
Have to go back to my letterbox now.
Yeah.
It was around the time we watched End of Days.
Yeah. It was.
there
It was
you
the same. It was the same day, wasn't it?
Code of Silence.
Oh yeah, his wardrobe in that is so fucking strong, man.
Yeah.
God, he's so good.
Yeah. what was the other one we watched him in? Where he plays like the main cop, and there's a guy who gets like Frankenstein back to life.
Oh yeah, and it's the weirdest film in his filmography because he's so fucking horny in it.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 sex montages.
Yeah. Complete with like,
Yeah.
complete with like sliced fruit.
Yes.
So there's like a fruit salad just resting on the. It's such a fucking horny movie.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow,
it really
I love
is. It wasn't good. It wasn't good at all.
Could you use your letterbox to find it because I can't remember the title.
All right, when did we saw that one
Fairly
out
recently. God,
Silent Rage.
Silent Rage. Yeah, that's an anomaly for him cinematically because he certainly, I think, as a sort of the character he wants to portray in his film, certainly in the canon era, is like, very stoic and very sound of values. Very much chiming with the 80s, Reagan era values. Which is the sort of resurrection of the sort of conservative values of the 50s, but through the prism of the 80s, the sort of excess of the 80s, and he's like this sort of symbol of moral decency, and that's what makes that film weirder, given that there's so much horniness.
Yeah, but he still kicks like a whole biker gang.
Yeah, great scene. Yeah,
With one kick.
Multiple kicks, but only kicks.
doesn't leave the ground for like 5 minutes.
He just has like 10 bikers all like come after him, and he just kicks them all through windows. It's great. That was probably like one of the best scenes, but it is quite minimal on the action.
Which is again is a surprise.
While. And the biker scene is very much just like, I think it's just there for a little bit more action because it doesn't play into the film at all.
Oh yeah.
It was a strange film. It has its good moments.
Yeah. The last two, I'm going to say this is a double bill.
Okay.
Willow.
Oh,
Okay.
Warwick Davis.
Yeah. Fern Gully is the other one.
Yeah, nice.
It's an animated film. Yeah.
I think Willow's experienced a bit of a resurgence. It got a TV series, didn't it?
It fell
Which
flat.
fell flat.
It goes to
I
show,
think it was
because
like worst performing Disney original show.
They actually they took it off Disney Plus, so you can't actually watch it.
Oh, there's like a there's a
Fucking
reason.
hell, really?
Yeah, it was one of those.
Is that still like that? Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Right,
There's like a reason why if they take it off, they save money.
Yes.
It's like a tax write-off.
Yes.
So if they're broadcasting it actively, it means they have to pay some kind of weird income tax that if they take it off, they basically some insurance reasons or whatever. But it's bizarre.
Like they need any fucking money.
I know.
Well, that's the thing. It was kind of
penny
weird for
pinchers.
Disney because it's kind of been Warner Brothers' thing at the moment, hasn't it? Just to be like,
Oh yeah, they love it.
cancelling films that haven't even
Their insurance
that have
company
been
must
filmed.
do
But
that.
like, yeah,
It's crazy.
it's a weird world.
It is. But yeah, they're films that I've picked.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, good stuff. That was
Good.
cathartic.
I
talking
think
about
so.
those films.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
enjoyed that a
I
great
got
deal.
Lady in the Water off my chest for a start.
Yes.
I'll talk about that another time, I think. But
Yeah.
I think that's all
A
right.
dedicated
Yeah.
episode, perhaps.
Completely, yeah.
Yeah,
6
yeah.
hours. Yeah.
Lady in the water.
Okay, then. Now that's in the dust.
Absolutely.
The landscape of cinema. What 4 men are better placed to critique and analyse the nuances of the industry we love dear.
Yeah.
Also notice, Ben, you've shed a layer and you're wearing the Cineboys Cinemen t-shirt.
I know. Thank you.
wow.
Cheers. Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't know there was merch.
Hey, this is the only one.
You're wearing the prototype.
Yeah. My
I was sort of toying with the idea. Is that arrogant to make merch? Have you thought about doing it?
I have thought about it. Yes, I don't think anybody would buy it, but I did. I thought it'd be fun when me and Chris went to Ireland on a holiday together. I thought it'd be fun if we both had Film Angle t-shirts.
I mean, I'd buy one.
But no.
Except we had a film angle Guinness.
Yes, we did.
Pretty good.
It's pretty. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, Ben, for you, I've bought 8,000 hoodies with Cineboys to Cinema on them, so we're going to sell them for £48 each.
And the warehouse that they're currently residing in.
Yeah.
yeah. I bought a plot of land just outside Bangkok.
I wonder what that
The
is.
shipping costs are an outrage. So the price of the hoodie is about 78 quid.
Yeah.
But it's it's worth it.
I wonder what that invoice was about.
Yeah. I used your credit card. Yeah, sorry.
That is like every YouTuber ever. It's like $50 for my shirt.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
There's a few I follow, and they're just, it's like, you're in no fit state to be making merch. Yet you are.
Yeah. They get cancelled the week after they release it.
Yeah.
Just like,
Maybe that's why I don't want to.
I like the
Sitting
idea
on
of,
8,000 hoodies.
I like the idea of making merch that maybe isn't like related to just having the logo, but like that being like the brand. But then you're making like film T-shirts. Like people would buy it without listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
I like that idea, but I'm not.
I see. Yeah.
I mean, the front of our hoodies are our respective genitals.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah,
How did you get a picture?
You were asleep.
Oh, fair enough.
The landscape of Hollywood.
yeah.
That's what we're here for. Our hot takes. And the reason I sort of thought this would be quite an interesting area to discuss is because I guess not only are we sort of on the precipice of a huge technological shift with the presence of AI, or the slow emergence of AI. Well, not slow, actually. It's already sort of encroaching on various aspects of our lives. And no more so is this more apparent than the film industry. But also just to sort of discuss or touch base with you guys and discuss the very nature of it in terms of the mainstream versus the independent. Particularly since Nolan himself came out during a discussion at Oppenheimer and said, "Thank God for Marvel movies."
Yeah.
And I guess to sort of kick it off, I think he's obviously talking about that COVID era cinema and how obviously it was a really trying time for pretty much any industry, but any industry that was dependent on viewership, spectatorship, which the cinema experience obviously is. It was a trying time, and I guess one of the few sort of pulls was Marvel.
Yeah, I think he probably meant it in a way of like keeping the venues alive, just through that appeal. But we are in that kind of phase now, aren't we, where they're not being as well received by the general public, not just kind of critically, but like financially as well. So if the Marvel movies aren't bringing people back to the cinema, what is? And then, but hopefully, I like to feel like we can be optimistic because of Barbenheimer from last year, because I think there was an element of like turning cinema into an event again, and a communal experience that was very good. I liked that. I want more of that, but I'm not sure how we're going to do that. I don't think you can always just pair the most bizarrely semi-related.
It'd be a marketing trope that would become pretty tired pretty quick. I think.
Completely. Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
thoughts exactly.
I think that got people excited about going to the cinema again, and hopefully there's some kind of lingering feelings there. But because Marvel aren't going to do it anymore.
Yeah, it's hard to recreate a Barbenheimer event though, because I think the strength of how successful that was simply due to how juxtaposed those two projects were, and how sort of amped up by marketing. I think people who went to see it mostly generally probably were less interested in the films themselves and more of the event of it. So I don't. Will we ever see another version of that again? I don't think so.
I think it'll be a bad move for studios to try and manufacture the same.
It's very
feeling.
fleeting, isn't it?
Because it was organic. It was made by the masses, right? That was the whole idea about Barbenheimer, was that it was created by us, right? It wasn't created by studios. So if a studio tries to recreate it, people are going to.
It'll stink, won't it?
Yeah, they're going to sniff that out. No, and no one will watch either of the films, and I think that'll be a massive shame. However, you're right, Alex, in the sense that I think something like that needs to happen at least once a year. A kind of phenomena where people get excited about it, and it kind of reaches sort of international news, and that was really refreshing about last year.
Do you think maybe it's going to bring back that idea of the director as the star? I feel like general audiences now know who Greta Gerwig is. I think I think her name.
People
is
pretended to know who she was before Barbie as well, which I thought was really fascinating.
Yeah. Okay.
So like the fact that Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer was probably only big because Nolan was attached to it.
Yeah.
And he's a name there, and I think with Dune Part 2, I think, Denis Villeneuve is becoming a director that people just want to go see what he's doing.
Yeah.
So potentially the director as star is back. We'll see. But
yeah, it's a very 90s thing, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think to see that come back would be interesting, because I think we've talked about this a few times on the podcast, but the idea, like, there's a limited pool of those. You said Nolan, totally. Tarantino. Yeah. Spielberg.
yeah.
I'd wager to say they're the three main ones.
Yeah.
I don't think Spielberg has that power anymore.
No, you're probably right, actually, thinking about it.
I'm trying to think how much The Fabelmans made, but maybe
Not much.
No,
his last few films haven't made that much, which is where the argument kind of goes in the bin of a little bit. But then like Scorsese, I'm pretty sure, I know it was a massive budget, but I'm pretty sure Flowers of the Killer Moon.
Killers of the...
No, I keep doing
He
that.
does that.
If you listen to our episode on it, I twist it all the time. Awful. I even put out a social media post with it the wrong way round and everything. No, terrible. Killers of the Flower Moon. I think it did pretty well in the end, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I think so.
For an Apple film, I think it did make... I don't think it... If you look at the figures, it made its money back in inverted commas, but it will absolutely make its money back through however the fuck they make their money. The sort of streaming services. But that was popular and it's got Oscar buzz, so even if it doesn't make its money, it will fare well for the company, for sure.
I think Gladstone will win Best Lead Female.
I'd be very surprised if she doesn't.
Yeah, if she doesn't win it,
she deserves it as well.
I think she deserves it as well, but I'm a little not worried, because I think it's also a really good performance, but I feel like Emma Stone might take it.
Okay.
She's already won one, though, is she not? I might think
she's been winning a lot of the awards in, like, the minor kind of award ceremonies that kind of predict sometimes what the Oscar's going to be.
Yeah.
She keeps winning those.
Really?
Has she not won an Oscar before? Am I?
She's been nominated, definitely.
Supporting? Did she do?
Did she not win for La La Land?
Oh, that was a film I was thinking of where she got tipped because she was in like Easy A before that.
I said sharp analysis earlier. That's the research report I probably should have done. No, but I really like that point you made about the idea of, and again, you the Anthemos, right? Like, he's another name, and we said this, and I think you guys as well touched on it in your episode. The idea that his films have a draw.
Sorry,
that's all right. His films have a draw too. So I think that's a point.
Sorry.
No, it's like you can't resist the beer. He's got
Open 2 beers.
He's going to hold the mic in between his thighs and just scull 2 beers as we talk. I think that's an interesting point that I'd not considered. I'd be interested to see if that grows or into something meaningful.
I think. Sorry to interject.
No, go for it.
I think it's just really hard to grasp what works, and I think the studios and film culture in general struggles to know what people want and what gets people into the cinema. It's almost a weird algorithm time that we're living in, that you can't predict anything, and it funnels into our films that we watch too. You see the strain in every big, massive blockbuster to try to recreate that greatness that we used to have, and we're getting starved for those types of movies too, and everything just seems to be being made with a shaking hand. There's so much worry put into these things, and it just emulates on the
no
screen.
risks are being taken at all, are they? Even with something like, the last example I can think of was the hiring of like Chloe Zhao for the Eternals, and that didn't fare well at all. So it's a shame, but yes,
I like the idea. There's a sort of air of uncertainty. And I think it was only ever going to go this way when you rely so long on a dominant genre like superhero films, and underneath that, nostalgia. There's only so far that can go until the well dries up, and then it leaves you thinking, shit, like maybe we should have invested in sort of newer ideas. I mean, I know the idea of new ideas is something that's, again, inverted commas for mainstream Hollywood, but ultimately, I think you're right about the air of panic. Actually, yeah.
Well, none of the studios make small films anymore, really, do they?
No.
And films have gotten so expensive that no wonder there's such a kind of fear behind how they're made, because they've got to make their money back, or it's been like a massive hit to these studios. And we are seeing studios merge and all that kind of stuff. Like we're probably on the brink of losing like a lot of the old school Hollywood production companies now, I would say.
Yeah.
Like Paramount's going to get folded into Warner Brothers potentially, I think.
Really?
and all that
Okay,
kind of
well,
stuff,
obviously,
so.
20th Century Fox is already now Disney. That's
Yeah.
I was reading about based on after Showgirls, I couldn't sleep, so I was reading about
nudity.
yeah, too much nudity. Couldn't sleep, yeah, I was reading
Hopefully
about
not your own.
I was reading about Paul Verhoeven and his career in Starship Troopers, and there's something interesting about what happened then, and that was obviously late 90s, mid to late 90s. Films became much more expensive, and with that became the flops became greater for these studios. And you think with Starship Troopers, it cost $100 million. It was a lot of money back
then. That's
1997.
massive.
He struggled to get it made too, didn't he?
Oh, big time,
Did
yeah.
He sent out like a video to production companies.
Yeah, it was a proof of concept.
Yeah, where he literally stood in front of a screen with like one of the creatures beside him and said like basically begged, please make my movie.
Yeah.
That was like his pitch, but yeah, he struggled.
So it was a big, again, like it was one of those sort of big swing, the big investment for these companies to make, and there was a lot of flops with that. I mean, it didn't make much money. Starship Troopers, same with something like Waterworld, again, like a big investment and a big loss. Cutthroat Island, same thing. And I got a weird feeling that history is sort of repeating itself a little bit with like, but a lot more with franchises. So you have like Fast X costing $300 million.
Yeah.
And like,
how is that 300 mil?
it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's silly. And Marvel's as well, excess 250 to 300 million and no return. It's like, I don't know if there's sort of a natural cyclical thing going on here that we will recover from, or whether there's something else going on. I don't know. Franchise fatigue, whatever.
If I was to like then tangent in the kind of AI of it all, I think studios and the kind of fear about how studios are actually going to use it, and they're probably going to use it in this way of like the writing and creating of visuals and stuff, is terrifying. However, there is an element of, if you can potentially make the kind of post-production of it, so like effects and stuff, faster and therefore potentially cheaper. And it's a horrible way to look at it, but potentially those films will get cheaper. I don't know. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
They're trying.
It's like, it's use it as a tool to aid, but not in like the main creativity. It's really difficult. It's difficult to talk about it because you don't know what
It'll be cheaper because people will lose their jobs, right? So I think that's the
scary
that's
thing.
the scary
But like,
thing, isn't it?
I pose it as a question to you. Miyazaki makes a film, he directs it, but his animators were AI. I mean, do you want to see that film, even if it yields the same product as we got recently, with all of his works? I mean, do you want to see something that was made by a non-human entity?
No, it feels a bit icky,
I
doesn't it?
think it. I
Something
would
so
know.
chilling
It would have no
and
message for you. You know what I mean? It would have. It was copying something. It's
Absolutely.
not. I think the artistry would be lost, even if it was basing the artistry kind of basing on previous works. Like, I don't know. There is something that I find that very uncomfortable personally.
Oh yeah, it's weird. Like I like to think of it of like if it was used in like small details. Like, I don't know, we need to have a CGI shot of a tree.
Yeah.
Well, instead of somebody having to go in and create that tree, there's at least a bare bones element that's been prompted by AI, and then a human goes in and tinkers with it afterwards. Maybe that is okay, or is it? I don't know. I don't really know.
I think that. I mean, on the sort of dawn of it, I think it became really apparent during the SAG-AFTRA strikes and all that sort of stuff that was one of the primary concerns in the industry. And I want to sort of preface any sort of acknowledgement of AI with almost another acknowledgement. I think people are very right in the industry to be concerned on the basis of how these studios are going to operate.
Yeah.
I think they've made it quite clear that obviously they're very profit motivated, as any business is, but they are especially profit motivated. And as we've talked about, this idea that there's flops and films are making more expensive. I think it'd be foolish for anyone in the industry not to be concerned that their job would be at risk.
Yeah.
Not because necessarily AI itself is potentially the bad thing, it's the people that use it.
Yeah.
The people that are ushering it in. I think if we talk about all these technological innovations just throughout society more broadly, obviously ultimately they tend to benefit humanity in various guises, but they're always marshaled and protected and under the guiding hand of like a hierarchical system or someone that's in charge, someone that wants to monopolize that that technological innovation. So on the basis of that, I think people are right to be concerned about it.
Well, film has moved so much into kind of it's a form of making money rather than a form of making art in the higher kind of echelons of like big studios and stuff like that. So that's where I think that's where the danger lies, because you know those fuckers are gonna like just get a script to be written by AI or just create a whole film using dead actors or something like that. They're gonna do it, and that is terrifying, because that I think is awful. Or just getting a film to just capitalize on the popularity of like several other films that have come before it doesn't make any sense. But they're going to do it, because
I do think what I think we are in the current climate experiencing, which I think is quite good, is the limitations of AI as well. So if you can tell that something is being AI generated in a visual sense from like an image based
it's the human eye, isn't it?
It's the eyes, exactly, and the eyes will always...
how we view it as well. Like something technically in front of me is the thing that it's supposed to be, like for like, but something about in my being knows that there's something wrong with it.
There's something
something just off.
There's just something.
It's uncanny. It's the uncanny valley problem.
Stepford Wivesy.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's the eyes and it's the hands as well. I think sometimes, because it struggles with the amount of digits, so like limbs.
Yeah.
So you can have 3 or 4 fingers on a hand, which is meant to have 5 and stuff like that. So there are limitations which mean. And they're quite difficult to overcome as well. I think it's important to kind of mention that we are still maybe about 5 to 10 years away from those problems resolving themselves, or getting resolved, I should say. So in that interim, what I really hope happens is some checks and some balances that are going to be put into play, which have already happened sort of with the SAG-AFTRA result.
Yeah.
But
regulation is key.
Completely. And I really hope that happens, because... I've got a bit of a stake in this anyway, so I'm slightly worried.
And
I feel like, I do feel like I really hope that it takes a long time to figure eyes out.
I agree. I think I think one of the more sort of possibly positive things about it is from like a like a low budget filmmaking perspective. I think it can equip. It can maybe match the ambition of sort of like amateur filmmakers that they couldn't previously realize because of budgetary or technological or even skill restraints. So I think from that perspective, in 5 to 10 years, if like someone that's wants to make a fucking ambitious movie with next to no money, maybe they can. I don't know. It depends how this technology is gatekeeped, as we've said. But
I do feel like there's a certain degree of people who would not care about that side of it like we would.
I think a huge percentage.
I feel like a lot of the consumer market will be like, oh, what's the thing that I could put on at nighttime, and I don't really care who made it. I don't care about the craft, as long as it's entertaining me. I think there will be a market for it. I think you're right, though. I think there will be a period where the mass Hollywood machine will try to utilize it. It will fail. And then it will revert back to normal again.
I hope
I hope so. Anyway, but there's
I think it's
we want human stories made by humans. I mean, that's a fundamental thing. Like, there's nothing interesting otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, AI by its nature is it's going to be a vague approximation of what humans have come up with, right? It's going to analyze everything that humans have made, everything humans believe and think and do, and that's how it creates. The algorithms and the designs or the future screenplays. I think it's foolish. Personally, not foolish, but I think it will get better. I think it is going to be something that's going to be here. It exists in many different guises already. Spell check.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean. Like it exists and we use it. I think
reading contracts apparently. Very good at that kind of thing. Small print, which is a good thing.
Again, I think AI is useful for supplementing. It can supplement areas of the creative experience which perhaps prevent individuals from being able to fully immerse themselves in other aspects of creativity, which would make these films so good. I'm with you guys 100%, but I just think that it's going to happen. And I think if it's regulated and Hollywood studios are sort of, they are, by some higher power made to make sure that
That's very optimistic.
It is. I mean, again, looking at the land, if there's one thing we know is that regulation state regulation isn't a very popular thing at the moment, more broadly speaking. So particularly when there's money involved, I don't know. I feel like it's going to happen, and I think if it can supplement creativity, then great.
Yeah.
As long as there are still people involved at the crux of the storytelling and people's jobs don't get lost. Because, you think about, like, this is, again, I'm going a bit off, so
No.
please tell me to. But, like the automation in factories, it's the same sort of thing. Like, the automation changed the landscape of, economically for so many people.
And it did displace a lot of people's jobs.
Yeah, and there was no money. Like, like, if people are kicked out of their jobs, a machine can make things quicker and with less risk and more efficiently than a human being, but they can't spend money.
No,
so there will be an economic impact that has to be considered. But I would rather that economic impact wasn't considered and those people kept their jobs. Yeah. And perhaps AI was used for the more banal details of life. That's what I think AI should be used for. Write a fucking CV. Who cares? I don't fucking give a shit. You use AI to write a CV. Most CVs are cut and paste anyway. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I look back at my CVs and think, fucking hell, like, basically a robot wrote this. Because you have to be a fucking robot to get most jobs anyway. So, I'm not against the idea of its use. I just think that I think for the more, as you said, the more creative elements, I've talked for a while, sorry. The more creative elements should be kept firmly in human hands,
or just to help ease with time. Maybe I think maybe like that. That's where I feel like AI is a good use for that. Like you said, the admin tasks, which just means that we can free up our time to be more creative elsewhere potentially, but also potentially as well. If the big studios use this evilly, which I'm sure they will. I don't know if evilly is a word, but use it for evil
in an evil fashion.
maybe we'll see a resurgence in smaller films.
That'd be great.
Which would be great. Yeah.
Here's something I want to ask all of you. When I say, this might sound a bit off topic, when I say found footage film, what's the first film that springs to your mind?
Blair Witch.
Yeah, right. So exactly. And the reason for that is because every other film that came after that was an approximation of it, which is what AI will do. Yeah. It will be it will just approximate what humans have made, and there'll be diminishing returns, and and it'll be a kind of apocalyptic disaster that hopefully will then, like you say, Alex, promote more sort of smaller independent films that use it a lot more subtly, a lot more creatively. So
I predict the first AI film will be a comedy. The script has been written by AI, and they'll use that as the selling point because it'll be bizarre or something like that, but it won't be very funny. And hopefully that'll be the death of it.
We'll have a cult following though in 10 years afterwards. People will kind of reevaluate it.
But I think it's interesting that you guys say that, and I want to tap into that point you were saying, Chris, about this idea that there'll perhaps be a resurgence of people that desire the human experience in films. But the more cynical view, perhaps, is that people aren't, more broadly speaking, fussed about the content they consume. Uh-huh. How do you see that playing out? In terms of if there's going to be like a resurrection of because there's always been a duality in film. When film started, it was a spectacle. It was something that people it was like, whoa, what the fuck is this?
It's like a circus.
Event, right? I mean, the process of viewing it was certainly more highbrow than it is now. Yeah, we'll go back into that for another topic we've got later on. But it was spectacle, and of course, as technology grew, it allowed filmmakers to explore things not away off the beaten track, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I'm just interested in what you think about that. If it is going to resurrect this enthusiasm for independent filmmaking, what does that say about the huge swaths of people that are more passive in the content they consume, particularly in the streaming era?
Well, I think maybe you could look at it in the same way that we look at the superhero landscape now, is that audiences do get bored after a while, and audiences also realise when things aren't good. I know I guess what I'm trying to say is studios make the wrong choices when they see something get popular. And maybe that'll happen as well. So Marvel created a universe, every studio wanted a universe, none of them have been able to take off. Barbie did well. What's the message that the studios take away from that? Let's make lots of films about toys. I bet you Polly Pocket won't get as big an opening as Barbie did. And then they'll be Hot Wheels, maybe that wasn't the takeaway from Barbie. So hopefully that'll be the case. That the general audiences will just get bored. That's my hope.
I don't know, maybe it is just too cynical of me, but I feel the digitization of media has made people far more passive. I don't know. Maybe I'm just sort of romanticizing an era of film that I wasn't a party to or alive to that I just watch now.
No, mate. No, I think it's interesting you say that because I find quite often when I go into like work or something, people have watched so much TV.
Yes, yeah, way more than I do. Yeah.
Oh, have you seen Ahsoka? Oh, have you seen this? And there's all like Star Wars properties and like Mandalorian. And I'm just like, how have you found the time to watch all of this?
Yeah.
Like. And engage with it, because I find engaging with media quite exhausting. I could never watch more than maybe 2 films in a day because I'd just be exhausted.
Like I am a big Star Wars fan, like you, Alex, but you're always on to me like, oh, you haven't watched Ahsoka yet, you haven't watched Mandalorian. You're not on to me. You just say, have I watched it yet? And I'm always like, no. I can't buy into the hype of the time. I just can't. I really struggle to engage with it when I'm told to engage with it, and I always end up revisiting these things. Like I'll watch Ahsoka probably sometime next year, and I'll enjoy it because it feels like something I cornered off and enjoyed by myself. But yeah, it is just homework now. I mean, I can't see the Marvels because I haven't seen Miss Marvel, and but I can't be bothered to watch that show because I know it's homework. And
is that people engaging with it? Are they actually engaging with it as much as we think they, or is it just like you say, a passive sit down, veg out, and like absorb it through your eyes?
I think they missed a trick there, Marvel. I mean, we talk about them. We say we're not going to talk about them, but we always do.
Yeah.
But I think they missed a trick crossing over from TV to film.
Yeah.
I think part of the success, whether you like it or not, and I certainly don't, of Marvel's marketing machine was in almost, the speculation, and it was firmly limited to film. So they'd have like loads of really over fucking Easter eggs, and people would like fucking whack their wicket for it online, and that and that would be like a marketing tool. We've talked about this before. Like
I know that's all right.
The ever moving marketing tool, and they don't have to do anything. They just fucking allude to a character through like a bit of their clothing in the background or something. Everyone's like,
and the post-credit scenes of expectations.
Yeah.
You sit in a cinema now, and you're going to a movie that's not even Marvel related or any big, franchise, and people still sit through credits now, expecting they've been trained to like expect a post-credit scene. Like you're going to go see like Eiling starring Anne Hathaway. People are like, "What's the post-credit scene?" I know it's an extreme example, but like I see it all the time.
I tell you what, it's nice in a way because it's good to be first out the car park. Because I'm always, as soon as I see directed by, I'm like, right, Mark, don't give a shit about the post.
Yeah. But you say like, I always bring up Marvel, but it's impossible not to talk about Marvel because
it's a phenomenon.
They're 50% of what dictates the cinema market for the average cinema goer. He doesn't want to see everything like we do. So, no one can blame you. It's impossible to navigate not talking.
The fact they went onto TV was problematic for them, I think, for that reason. Because now, like you said, you have to watch fucking like Miss Marvels. And part of my work, I had to watch it and I was like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there are elements of this that are sort of fairly meritable, I guess. But like, fuck, man. Like you say, homework. You don't want to do fucking homework. Like,
I bought into it. But even now... But that was because I was reading the comics as a kid, so I was those early days of Marvel, I was lapping it up. I absolutely loved it. But even now I've lost the excitement of. I still go to see them because I enjoy them, but the excitement's gone. I don't know the last time I was like truly excited for a Marvel film.
No, I think it's Marvel's in it's
just overexposure.
Yeah,
it is, and it's lack of genuine creativity in the writing and people being exhausted, and you've seen it all. I mean, what can you do?
That's it. Early days it was more like a fascination of like, oh my god, the inner child in me can't believe that I'm actually about to see this on the big screen, but we've seen it all now. So
and obviously there was an overarching big arc that ended in 2019. And then what do we do now?
I don't know what they've got left that I'm like, can't wait to see that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Is their decline more down to the fact of that lack of... I guess the question should be more, is the lack of enthusiasm for modern Marvel more down to a lack of direction in terms of the overarching story or the executives and their decisions, or is it more broadly just because of...
I think the movies aren't good. I think that's kind of a problem.
So it's not super fatigue, or is it like a symbiotic thing? Is the fatigue because of a lack of disengagement.
I think the fatigue is because I just think we would talk about the fear of filmmaking. I think those big films, and Marvel films are obviously the big films, they're too scared to do anything too different. So they're just they all merge into one. And you just have this you're just a bit bored of the structure now. You know what you're getting every time. And that's why I think that's why I keep saying that. I think audiences will get bored, because I think audiences are getting bored of the same thing. But
we talked about Chloe Zhao's ill-fated Eternals thing there, and people hated that, and that was a deviation from structure.
I quite liked it.
To be honest, I sort of didn't mind it. I don't know. I quite like Chloe Zhao.
I've yet to see it, but yeah.
Oh yeah, have you seen it now? I feel like you see it recently.
Fairly.
Yes. Yeah. Because I think I remember you saying you were intrigued by it.
Yeah. I really like Chloe Zhao, and I think it was interesting for them that they thought, that was their experiment to do that, to sort of I don't know, that they obviously saw that there was monetary potential to allow a filmmaker that is pretty hot in terms of Oscars, or Oscar success, and and they thought maybe we just let her go free willy with this, not the film Free Willy. There's no there's no orcas in it, as far as I'm aware.
I did like the fact that the themes that have been present in her work prior to Marvel were present in something that was on a giant scale. Slightly diluted because of that, but I did like that there is a thread that connects her filmography.
It was rejected though.
But it was
rejected by the same audience that we're claiming are bored of it. So I think we said this before, but I think the fan has too much fucking power.
Yeah,
I think if something's going to happen that's going to be positive for this film industry, the comic book fan. Or the sort of nerd culture, I think it needs to be curtailed. I think it needs to be cut down a peg.
Well, they did save Sonic, though.
That's true. Maybe I'll go back on that. What I've just said on that basis. But no, I do think that it's a problem. I do think that, we talked about this in relation to the Snyderverse thing. The Justice League Snyder cut was better, but it's the fact that it existed was because fans had too much fucking power.
They're real apologists for him. He can't do anything wrong.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Fandoms are so annoying now, because I think it is a case of if I don't see the film that I expected to see, then I hate it. Whereas I think audiences should always we shouldn't be getting exactly what we want, because that's not interesting. No. Yeah. It's just not interesting. Show me something I haven't seen before.
But mainstream culture is really fucking good. The reason why Marvel is so separate to me and such an interesting phenomenon on the basis of how our relationship with the mainstream against the independent is that, it gave us what we wanted within the same universe and the same storytelling beats again and again and again. And I know mainstream cinema is guilty of that. That's what it exists.
Yeah.
Mainstream cinema will give you something familiar. It will give you a mixture of lots of this sort of soft version of all the genres you like, sort of crushed together. But what Marvel is different because it was literally the same in every movie. So it was giving people what they wanted. It gave them, they took a gamble on a formula, it worked, and then they fucking rode with it for 25 films or whatever, how many films it was. I don't know. I don't want to be. I'm sounding. So I don't want to sound cynical, but I definitely am sounding cynical. But I don't know. I just think. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe they'll just make another movie that might save them, and everyone will be like, okay, yeah, great.
Here's an idea: make a superhero film not based on a comic book. Just an idea, don't know. Okay. do an original one. That'd be cool. I don't know. Have it not based off an existing property, but still have it in that genre that's popular, and maybe there could be something fresh from that.
And as much as I like Guardians 3, it's annoying that film was kind of worked, because it reignites the dying corpse temporarily, and adds another 10 films onto the sort of
we could still make 700 million off of this if we do it right.
Gunn is seen as the as the hero, isn't he? The thinking man superhero film. But that's what people think of James Gunn. I haven't seen Guardians 3 because I thought I really didn't like Guardians 2, and I was sort of kind of getting a bit over it. But he went over to DC, did Suicide Squad. Everyone loved that, I think.
No, I think that's the opinion.
Broadly,
It was well received. Didn't make much money though.
Yeah, true.
It sort of tanked, but
he's still now the head of DC cinematic operations.
Exactly. So. I think it
interested to see
might
how
be
that's gonna
COVID.
go.
I think maybe COVID might have fucked that film
Yeah,
a little bit. But yeah, I'm baffled. I mean, have they not seen Slither? Like, it's not exactly a thinking man's film. It's a great film, but it's not.
Super. Remember that one? Yeah.
Oh, Super, yeah, as well.
That's what was so interesting about Suicide Squad to me, was like it was like that era of the sort of Troma-esque era of Gunn fighting against this sort of sweet, fluffy version of Gunn that now exists
Yeah.
to placate Disney. Like, and he always says, "Well, a man can grow" and all this kind of stuff. But you know, I think
He's got some PR people.
Yeah,
saying
yeah. Like, he may have a point, and I'm sure he is passionate about the projects he's working on. But I do think that film was particularly interesting on the basis that you can see there's this sort of the last vestiges of the Gun that was.
Yeah.
Is fighting against the Gun that is.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. Right, I'm off. But you know, and I find it interesting that he's involved in it now, and I think I don't know. I'd be interested to see how people see the DC, the new DC. Is it called the? I don't know what it's even called.
Decay.
KU.
Yeah. If we were to move away from kind of superhero films, not to dictate what you do on your podcast, obviously.
No, move away.
Please,
Fucking
yeah,
move
yeah.
away.
What about in terms of like streaming? Because I think streaming's in that similar phase as well of like, is it about to collapse on itself? Is it, every studio's got a streaming company, but they don't. But yeah, some of them that we were alluding to with like Willow earlier, like tax write-offs to save money.
Yeah.
They're merging into each other. I think so. Warner Brothers have HBO Max, or if it's just called Max now.
It's called Max for some reason.
In the States, we haven't got it here yet, but they are still licensing some of their films to Netflix because Netflix is like the main one.
Yeah.
So that's a win for Netflix. But yeah, is it all like coming down on itself?
It's strange, isn't it, that so many of these companies are so much more overt about ownership? Because like the reason like classic Hollywood collapsed because there was concerns about like monopoly. You know.
Yeah.
And now it's like, we're so far gone now that people just don't care that there's just monopolization and companies are folding into one another as we speak. I wasn't aware that Paramount that was happening, that merger.
I think it's like it's in play. Like I don't think it's like confirmed, but I think there's lots of like rumors and talks going on between, because I think they are trying to sell themselves.
They had Iron Man as well.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? They sold Iron Man, which was the catalyst for Marvel becoming what it is today. That's just. I think the streaming thing is. I personally think it's partially down to the content and the kind of. It's become a bit of a farm. I think a lot of the actual content, with the exception of some shows that are coming out, which is still very good, and like some original films on these streaming platforms, but broadly speaking, there hasn't been a lot of top tier sort of content. Like I'm struggling to think of the last Netflix film I watched, which I really thought was worthwhile.
There's a lot of fucking whack on there.
There's just so much like grey sludge on there.
Yeah.
A lot of just like subpar rom-com.
True crime,
Yeah.
which is overly episodic.
Yeah.
Based on, and this is horrible to say, but murders that weren't that interesting.
Try their best to make it interesting.
I did like their phase of just like throwing hundreds of millions of pounds at people like Scorsese, which obviously it didn't really work out for Netflix in the end, but like Apple are now the ones doing it, where they're giving like Ridley Scott just like unlimited budgets just to go make their films. I'm happy for that. I don't think it'll work out for any of the streaming studios in the long run, but I'm glad we're getting these films.
I mean, I think that's how they're sort of like vindicating the criticisms from like people like us, like film fans, is by essentially just giving large sums of money to filmmakers whose projects are no longer acceptable to the established elite in Hollywood. And that's the one thing I think we've said that before, and I think you're basically saying what we've always said is that hey, they're giving Scorsese a few mil, to make a film about an old gangster.
Yeah.
a badly CGI'd old gangster pushing a guy over outside a shop. But the rest of the film's good. The rest of the film's good. So I think streaming. What streaming's really good at is providing the illusion of choice. The idea there's loads of fucking films and there's so much good stuff when like 90% of it is fucking crap.
Yeah,
like
the signposting's awful too. I mean, you go into work and talk to somebody who's not a film fan, and they'll be like, "There's nothing to watch at the minute." I'm like, "There is so much to watch. You're just not being led to it." I mean, you think about the Wes Anderson short films that were on there a few months ago, like you wouldn't know they were on there unless you knew they were on there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's even bad at like picking up what your tastes are. Like as a film fan, like it'll give you the crap still. But yeah, I digress. But it is an awkward situation in market. But
oh man, this is bleak.
I think the streaming thing has unlocked a little bit more cynical of our sort of cynical side than I had expected.
But I do love being able to watch anything I want to watch at any time.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Well, I mean, I watched Showgirls on Google Play yesterday. That was the only way I could get it. I didn't even think twice. I was on my way home and I was like, I should probably watch that. I didn't have to stop off at HMV or like I just that's the positive side to it in a sense is that it is readily available. It's like at your fingertips, right? It's not. It's not like you have to consider the you know this kind of infrastructure of your day to watch a film. You can just it's just there, I suppose. And it's the same for sort of film artifacts like Showgirls, where you can access them easily now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's double-sided coin for sure.
I know. They need a streaming service that just does old movies, though. That's the one thing that's lacking.
They tried that with Filmstruck. Remember that? It was Michael Cera, sort of like,
I don't know.
kind of was a heavy hand in that, but just, not enough people.
Appetites. I think there's something deeper. Like, I definitely think that streaming plays a huge role in the tastes of people, but I think there has to be a shift somewhere else. I don't know how or why, but I mean, I use this analogy quite a lot, but the clientele in, for example, a showcase versus the watershed is so different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you could fill out a film at the watershed, which is like a French subtitle.
The people that go to showcase won't be in there.
Yeah, I went to Cineworld to see Iron Claw and just had to hear two people behind me talk for the whole movie. That's like the risk you always take with a multiplex.
Yep.
But by that same token, I went to watch Solaris with my nan in the Arty Cinema in my hometown of Derby, and there was a couple behind me that whacked out a cheese board. That's the sort of posh equivalent of like the masses will talk and throw popcorn and eat like fucking hogs with hay fever.
Yeah, those roll over £1 hot dogs that they're being sold for £7.
Yeah. But you go to like you go to a fucking posh cinema, you got fucking twats with brie.
Yeah.
I was
do you prefer to smell ketchup or do you prefer to smell chutney? That's the thing.
I always love in the watershed there's like a collective gasp sometimes. I always call it like the watershed gasp. It's just like something minor happens, but it's quite a dramatic element to the film. And it's just like the whole audience kind of gasp. You just don't get that in cinema. I kind of love it. I kind of love that collective.
It's the acoustics of the sort of smaller screens, I think, help with that a little bit. It's weird because even though it's a smaller screen, I think what the benefit of the watershed is that it feels more collective somehow, just because you're sort of tightly packed and you're probably more keenly aware that everyone around you has made a choice, not just taken a gamble.
You make a choice to see a Peter Strickland movie, don't you?
Yeah.
The film is the event in an art house cinema, whereas in a multiplex, as we worked,
it's a distraction.
It's part of it. You're not just going to watch a film. You're going to get a fucking artillery shell full of Tango Ice Blast. Do you know what I mean? With chemicals in it, they're going to make your urine green. Do you remember in the fucking box on the back?
Oh yeah, where the syrups were.
It would say like this might make it difficult for your child to concentrate. Yeah, but that's a fucking fitting.
Oh my god!
Thing for fucking blockbuster films. They even need your kids to fucking concentrate.
Yeah,
so they can slurp mindlessly on this shit. Delicious shit. This makes it sound like a hypocrite. I love a Tango Ice Blast, but
going to see Poltergeist and 4DX and someone's got a full-on jalapeno nachos beside you.
I just think it's fucking disgraceful behaviour. I honestly do. Like, I remember saying it to one of the managers at the cinema. It's like I told him I backed over his dog's head in the driveway when I said I think problem with places like this is they've stopped film being the most important thing about the experience. He was like, what? But I think it's true, like, and that's what people are conditioned into now, like they just want the experience. And I'm not saying it's necessarily doesn't make you a bad person, obviously, for chomping on a hot dog next to me, even though I silently imagine killing you. Like, but that's my problem too, because I'm a fucking snob. But like, I also expect there to be a sense of decorum in watching films that I think in multiplexes just isn't adhered to whatsoever.
No, yeah.
I try not to go on the weekends anymore to multiplex because it's just you got
midweek screenings are much easier.
I feel like people have forgotten how to behave in a cinema, which again sounds really like elitist and snobby, but come on, we're all here to just sit in a dark room and watch a film. Don't talk all the way through it.
I've never understood it. I really haven't. But then you still get that in arty cinemas. And I guess what a roundabout point I'm trying to make is, weirdly, I think there is something more cultural. More than just culture. Sorry, I think it's class-based a little bit. Not to be too highfalutin, but it's open scars and tortoiseshell glasses are plenty in the watershed, and they ain't people from fucking council estates either. Let's be honest. So I think there needs to be some kind of recalibration. Hopefully that can be done somehow. And I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, and it's like you get these everyman cinemas as well, which is like, we're going to show Billy Wilder's The Apartment, but do you want an ice cream with that? Do you want a pizza slice?
Yeah, do you want a £30 burger?
I had to before Christmas. I was so worried I wouldn't go get to see The Boy and the Heron. It was just not showing up in any times on any multiplexes. So I went to see it in an everyman adjacent type cinema, and it was horrible, the experience. I hated it. Everyone there was there for the experience of it. Like, a guy brought a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and whatever with him, and the whole first 10 minutes of the movie, I was just seeing waiters and waitresses coming past with food, casting their shadow halfway through the screen, and I'm trying, I literally could not get into the film. I was so disrupted by this, and my ticket alone was £16 just to see the movie. And I didn't order any food. Because I was so jaded by it. I hated the experience. I got to see it again in the IMAX screen. Actually, they showed an IMAX. It's beautiful.
Oh wow, that's good.
But I will not probably do that again.
Well, it's interesting you say that about places like that, because they build themselves as an upper crust sort of chain, don't they?
It's so contrary to its intention, its apparent intention.
I completely agree with you. I went to the Everyman in Bristol after Christmas. I got a voucher, a £25 voucher.
Yeah, doesn't go far.
Does it? I couldn't believe it. I fucking fell over when she said there's additional cost. I was in there, can I just have it back? But then I thought, well, I have to spend it here. So come back or go elsewhere. No, you won't. No, I won't. 2 tickets for Ferrari, please. But you know what I mean? I couldn't believe it. And I guess for that, that is a fucking posho cinema, it definitely is. But
the seats are nice.
Yeah, the seats are nice.
Yeah.
But for cinemas like the Watershed, and I'm not saying this is a criticism of the Watershed, because I fucking love the Watershed. I love the Quad in Derby, which has got a similar vibe. But I think they attract that crowd. I don't know. And again, they are very much more about the film than everything else. There is a restaurant you can take a beer in, but you can't fucking take a pot roast in or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know. Is it something that has to be done more on a cultural level? Because in my experience, I've showed films to people that you probably wouldn't have thought they'd enjoy, and they loved it, old films. So I think there's definite scope for it. 100%.
I think so. Yeah.
I just think there needs to be more engagement. I don't know how you do that without making a loss.
Well, this is it. I mean, a lot of multiplexes make their money from the concessions. So why shouldn't it be about, in their eyes, why shouldn't it be all about the frills and what you buy at the cinema? Because otherwise they wouldn't be there at all, I suppose. So it's conflicting, and I've got a kind of, there's almost a cognitive dissonance going on in my mind.
They could just pick less stinky foods, though.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Or the wrapping.
Yeah. Maybe there just needs to be
they sell bags of popcorn now, from third-party companies, don't they?
Yeah. I think the distribution deals need to maybe be changed, because at the moment cinemas aren't making enough money off of the films that they're screening. There's something like 45% of the profit goes to the cinemas, which isn't enough, clearly, because they're £7.50 for a big tub of Tango Ice Blast. It's maybe there's something that needs to be done about the way films are distributed, and I don't know if there's a kind of a pyramid of bosses at the top which are making too much money, and there needs to be some reform in that sense. I think I think that's the way forward with cinemas.
Yeah, if you give the cinemas more money, they might take more risks.
Yeah, like, because the thing they're advertising, they're not making money off, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
What about like touring a film? Maybe that's the way to do it. Because I know like Kevin Smith dabbled with that a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to bring film back as an event, and it's only in your city for like a week.
Oh wow!
Okay.
I don't know, and like it's traveling up the country or traveling down the country. I don't know, like the buzz comes with it.
Spoilers might be a problem.
There is that.
You're right though. It's an interesting idea. That happen with a film recently. It was like, I think Tilda Swinton was in it, and it's really difficult to see because the film's touring.
The Eternal Daughter.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, I did see that one in the watershed.
Did you?
With the Q&A, I got to see Tilda Swinton. And Joanna Hawks.
They're both in Bristol.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. No, I didn't see that. Shit.
There we go. Yeah. Interesting.
Somebody sat in the fucking Everyman. Watches them toss. They go, no pepperoni.
while watching Wonka.
Yeah. Oh, the Everyman is expensive. I went to see what was Anderson's latest actual film?
Asteroid City.
Asteroid City. I went to see Asteroid City at the Everyman because it was like the only place in Bristol was still screening.
They do that, don't they? The wily bastards.
Yeah. 16 quid down the Swanee. Didn't like the film that much.
Absurd.
Yeah,
it's absurd. Maybe they could do more incentives as well for like certain age groups. If you want people to get into movies, like you can make it super cheap.
Yeah, I think so.
At the end of the day, like a fucking Tuesday in the day, no one's sitting filling that screen anyway.
Exactly.
That's true.
Yeah.
I do think it's a reductive attitude to think that people just aren't going to engage with it. I think if you put them in a situation where that's all they've got to watch, they might actually. And some people won't. I think it also, maybe there's that sort of element to it as well, where it's like, a lot of people aren't as invested in it as we are.
Yeah, there is definitely that.
The same way that I'm not as invested in, I don't know, vase designs. You know what I mean? Obviously, film is far bigger than vase designs, but as an industry, I think. I'm strolling into territory I have no idea about. I'm going to get fucking chastised, probably rightly so, by vase enthusiasts.
Yeah, you can't let like elitism get in the way. Sometimes you can forget that as a film fan. I go in an office environment and everybody wants to talk about sport. I know fucking nothing about sports. I don't pretend to either. But that doesn't make them like beneath me or myself beneath them. But there is that sort of stigma as being a film lover, especially when you're a teenager, when you're transitioning in your 20s and trying to get rid of that ego a little bit. It's a hard thing.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, you do assume that it's more mainstream than it is sometimes, and maybe it's...
why aren't people think like me?
Yeah. But I guess maybe it's like similar to like theatre. I don't go to the theatre, but there's a massive kind of
it's because it's so expensive.
Audience.
It's like £150 to see a fucking play. Yeah,
Cursed
probably
child.
talk about the same way we do about films.
Yeah. I think the snobby element of it is I think maybe they will just perceive that. And I don't. It's like, you have discussions with people outside of your immediate circle, and they will obviously their tastes will, at least at the surface level, appear more mainstream. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with indulging in mainstream. It's not a reflection of your intelligence at all, obviously. But I think the thing what mainstream's really good at, I think it comes back to what we're saying about Marvel, not to bring them back, but like they're really good. Mainstream films and mainstream culture in general is really good at keeping your attention, and it almost doesn't want you to divert your attention.
Yeah. And
that's what I hate about mainstream culture. I dip into it, of course, I indulge it in various guises across the video game industry. Like I play a lot of games which you'd consider very mainstream, so I'm not above it.
I feel the video game industry is being successful in ditching that. I think there's a lot of jaded opinion on mainstream video gaming now, and I think indie is starting to kind of be the thing now.
Maybe.
I think a good game is a good game. A good movie is a good movie, but we're struggling in cinema to make that work as opposed to...
Yeah. I just think mainstream culture is all-consuming.
Yeah.
Knowingly and
it's a severe effort to go out of line and think about something that's a little bit more lofty. It's a severe effort to sit down and put on Solaris in the evening after a day of work. And, I understand people not wanting to do that.
Well, you think about we've been doing a lot of our film reviews early this year have been a lot of the kind of Oscar films because they're all been coming out around this time, and I think like you and I have been a little bit kind of exhausted in the terms of like how many sad films
Oh,
can I
okay,
see?
right.
Like, and they're all really good. Like, don't get me wrong, we've enjoyed most of them.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm going to sit down and watch something depressing again, and it's like sometimes I just want to switch my brain off.
Yeah.
And watch something shit.
Yeah. There's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
I just think mainstream culture is very good at quietly eroding away the natural human curiosity for things,
Yeah.
and your life will be enriched in a far more meaningful manner. Sorry, Ponzi opinion alert, by the way.
No.
But I think your life will be enriched in a far more meaningful manner if you go off the beaten track than if you just stick to watching Saturday Night Takeaway.
You'll probably be a happier person.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, I'm a snobby
Blissful
shit,
ignorance, as they say. Yeah.
but I don't know. It is a lot more nuanced than perhaps we give it credit for. But yeah, have we come across cynical?
No. I think you're right.
I don't know.
I don't know about cynical.
There's no debate if there
But-
isn't some kind of
Cynical, but like
Thing
not
wrong,
cynical.
is it?
It's more a place of worry and a love.
I am worried.
A love
I
for.
think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
We
It's
also spent the first hour poring over stuff we love as well. So I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
Yeah. It is a shame that like the landscape of cinema, like we're not obviously very optimistic about, but yeah, hopefully we can all be like pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think it's here to stay. I don't think it's going to die anytime soon.
No, there will always be a want for it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's nothing better than being pleasantly surprised by something at the cinema.
But then again, like I feel like, and I know they're more Oscar baity films, but like the kind of slew of like arty / mainstream films that have been coming out at the start of this year have been really good. I think it's
Of
been,
the last year in general, I think
I feel like
23
we've
was dropped
watched
that. Yeah.
apart from Madam Web, like all the films we've seen in the cinema within the last 2 months have
Yeah.
been pretty good.
Yeah, A24 still kind of going strong. I think generally they're investing a lot more money
Yeah.
into their films, and yet I think they are for the most part retaining that sort of sense of independence from the big studio
Yeah.
films. I think we're like Zone of Interest is a prime example of that for sure, and the Iron Claw as well. They're both A24
They
projects.
co-funded it with Film 4, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
So yeah, not all doom and gloom for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking hell, yeah. It's all fucked, but yeah. No, I'm joking. It'll be all right. It'll be all right.
He'll be all right.
Right, let's move on to our next segment. So the collective listeners of Cineboys to Cinemen and the Film Angle have given us some films for this next section, which is overrated or underrated.
Nice.
This is going to be a bit cutthroat, I think, 'cause it's very hard to classify a film on those bases, but I thought it'd be quite a nice little thing to sort of cool off on after that lofty bit of discourse there. You definitely got more responses than we did. Not bitter. Not bitter. What the fuck are you lot doing?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's outrageous. Pull your fingers out, guys. Come on.
They were all on a mass holiday, I heard. So they weren't looking at their phones.
Yeah.
We'll be looking at fucking cat videos. Wankers. No, come on. I'm bigger than this. Right, okay. So, first up, this is from one of ours.
Okay.
Mike Bell. Love you, Mike.
Yeah.
Dear friend of mine. Mean Streets. Overrated or underrated? Weird film to start with.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
I would, I mean, for me personally, no disrespect, Mike, but I feel like that film gets all the praise it deserves.
Yeah.
And that's it. So I don't think it's either, personally. But
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I think in comparison to Scorsese's other films, it gets lost.
Okay, maybe that's where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
maybe underrated in that sense.
Yeah,
It should
maybe,
be.
yeah.
But critically revered just the right amount.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Agreed. The Godfather Part 1, that's from my beloved Georgia.
Ooh, okay.
I guess her thought process was that it's in the shadow of Godfather Part 2, which I think's unfair, because I prefer Godfather Part 1.
Yeah.
Godfather Part 1 is my partner Lauren's favourite film of all time.
Ah, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's amazing.
I love it as well, and I think it does give part 2 a run for its money.
Look at that,
It
eh?
might be my favourite part.
So we're going to go underrated? I guess we'd have to, wouldn't we?
Is it though? I mean, like it's always number one on like or top 10 films of all time lists and everything.
This is the metric for this. Is so
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
I would make a case for it being overrated.
Oh,
Okay.
spicy.
Purely because
Get Out.
yeah. Because it got so much praise heaped on it. So I
Films,
watched it when I was like 14, and it's not an easy watch at all. Like, there's a lot of lofty stuff in there, and
Yeah.
it's, for a 14-year-old who's mainly obsessed with the Elder Scrolls and trying and failing to talk to girls. It's like an odd thing to consume. So I think on that basis, I'd say it's overrated.
14-year-old Ben is saying overrated.
But 29-year-old Ben is saying underrated. Yeah, for sure, because it is fantastic, undeniably
better than Godfather Part 2.
Yeah, I still think Francis Ford Coppola's best film is Apocalypse Now, though.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
No, I'd say Jack.
I really like Rumblefish.
okay.
Or The Outsiders, but yeah, no, Apocalypse Now is definitely better. Shut up, Danny.
That's that. Yeah,
So we're going to go with overrated or underrated for that. I'll leave you to the film angle.
you're talking to 29-year-old Ben, so
I think so. It's one of those films. Is like you hear about it your entire life, and then you say it, and you're like, "Yeah, I get it." And then I think it's plateau level. I think it's right.
Yeah, fair enough.
I spoke for you. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's about right. I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay, the next one. This is from Dale,
yeah,
another dear friend. The assassination of Jesse James by Carl Robert Ford.
Underrated.
I would agree, underrated.
Yeah.
Has an amazing score.
Yes, it does. Yeah,
What's it? Nick Cave and Warren Ellis.
Yeah,
he wrote it, didn't he, with Nick Cave?
What, the film?
Yeah,
Really?
I'm pretty sure he wrote it. Yeah,
No way. You learn something new every day.
I love their work.
I might be wrong there.
Their work on The Proposition as well.
Yeah, he
I
wrote
love
that, didn't he?
score. Yeah.
That is,
Shit, I
yeah.
don't know if he did write it.
I don't think he did, no. Because that was very much... it was a passion project of the director, I think.
Whatever.
Yeah. Underrated, absolutely.
Yeah, underrated. Okay, I put this one in. I put the next two in. The Joker,
Oh,
Overrated.
overrated.
sorry, Mum and Dad, overrated.
A Fisher Price Taxi Driver.
Detest that film.
Oh, God, I was thinking it might... Because every time I come and speak to people about it, I didn't like it. Again, it's like I backed over their head, their dog's head.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like
driveway.
it's the meeting in the elevator, isn't it? It's like, and it's trying to pull the wool over the audience's eyes the whole movie. It's like Zazie Beetz would never give that guy at the time of day, let alone form a relationship. Either she is not real, or this is the worst movie ever made, and it's both. So,
That resulting flashback sequence, just to make sure the audience...
just to make sure.
This is cutting edge cinema. We're gonna spoon feed you all the narrative art. Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to have a frank discussion with my parents, especially my mum, who is a fan of the Joker and also the Godfather. I think she holds...
Oh, you're in trouble then.
Yeah.
You're gonna get grounded.
we're all in trouble.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think my parents quite like the Joker as well. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Next one, another pick of mine, 1917.
I'm
I'm going to say
disagree.
I'm going to say underrated, overrated, totally overrated.
I really liked it, so underrated, but it did do well, so it's rated highly, right? But no, I was swept up in the emotion of it when I saw it in the cinema.
I'm with you, Alex. I liked it a lot. Yeah,
connected with me.
I know you prefer Dunkirk a lot more.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
and I can understand why. And also the single take thing is a gimmick, and it is like
it's too clean.
Yeah.
For a war movie, it's too clean.
I feel like I should have brought my video game controller when I was watching that movie.
jump off the waterfall, press X.
Yeah, exactly.
What you may get stabbed by a German pilot. Don't press that.
I think it has a majesty about it which was slightly overwhelming. Although, I mean, I'm not as much of a sort of military historian as you are, so maybe that there's a kind of
I love
historical accuracy factor in that which
the geography of that movie is weird. Like it's all like in a small area of land, but it's vast as well. It's quite confusing to watch.
Yeah. It's just I just thought it was too clean and a sort of rehash of a lot of the ideas in better war movies.
It's too polished. The veneer is too polished. Yeah.
So we 50. I'm getting the vibe.
I'm not a big fan of the movie.
You're overrated.
Yeah.
So 50-50 on that one.
Yeah.
Split,
I think of the two war films Sam Mendes has directed, I think Jarhead is more interesting.
Jarhead's a better movie. I agree.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I said I agree, but I don't know if you was that your point that you prefer it.
I would probably. Yeah, no, I'd say yeah, fair enough.
I love you. Next one, Inland Empire.
I've not seen that.
I haven't seen it
You've
either.
not seen it. I'd say underrated.
Underrated, yeah, I really like it.
Brilliant.
It took me a few watches, which is weird 'cause it's like 3 hours.
Shot on DV, isn't it?
Yeah, shot on some...
Lynch on DV tape. What? You're in for a treat.
Has that creepy under your skin. Okay.
Yeah,
Going
I agree.
for it, yeah.
We've got fucking loads here. Avatar. Overrated.
I think the opinions are very like polarizing in general on that film, so I think it balances itself out. Yeah,
this is why it's on the list. I guess I'd probably go with overrated as well, although there are aspects of it that I enjoy on a very surface level.
Yeah, I think I'm the same as you. Yeah.
It's a very surface level film though.
Yes.
Because it's no secret that a lot of properties that came before it did the same themes and story a lot better. So, yeah.
Feel free to jump in if any of these films are from your dedicated listenership. Sure. The next one is Signs. Did you pick that one? Or did
I kind of mentioned M. Night a little bit.
Underrated.
Yeah, underrated. I love it.
Sure. You like me.
Signs I like a lot, so I would say probably underrated.
Underrated.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
I haven't actually seen it. So.
Alex,
okay.
that.
Treat yourself.
I will.
It's a very different Joaquin Phoenix performance in there.
Yeah. Yes. No, I need to get around to that one.
To be fair, I can understand why it's not top of people's lists, to be fair.
Yeah, quite polarising response, isn't it? So.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I really like it.
Gets under your skin, same as it's part of that chilly thriller thing we were talking about. And performances are actually really good, including Mel Gibson.
Oh, Mel.
Yeah.
I'll add it to the list of films that I'm already writing down that we've discussed today.
James Newton Howard's soundtrack as well, possibly one of my favourite composers, and it does not disappoint.
There we go. Road to Perdition. Overrated. Sorry, I'm just saying
that
my
was
opinion
one of
straight
our
on top.
followers.
Who was that?
Rachel.
Hello. Assuming you make the jump.
Weird relationship with that film. Liked it as a kid because my dad had it on all the time. As I watched it as an adult, I did not like it at all. I'd say overrated. The score of that movie hits you over the head with a hammer. It wraps up in an odd way. The Jude Law performance is kind of fun and unsettling. But
yeah.
And Daniel Craig plays a wimp pretty well. But apart from that, I think I'd say overrated.
We're ragging on Sam Mendes here.
I was going to say, Mendes is getting
I really
American
like
Beauty would have been another good one.
Yeah, it would have. Yeah, I really like Revolutionary Road. I'll give you that, Sam.
Okay,
Yeah.
Fair play. Yeah.
But views them quickly. Road to Perdition.
Oh,
Overrated,
me?
underrated?
Oh, fuck me. I actually have no idea.
Sorry.
I don't know. I've seen it. It was a long time ago. I remember it being very grey and rainy.
It's very grey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul Newman's in it briefly.
Yeah.
The salad dressing.
Yes.
Didn't leave a lasting impression on me, to be honest.
I believe this is another listener for you. Love Actually.
That was your sister, Chris?
Yeah. Well, talk about it maybe in the sphere of Christmas movies, because it's like one of the people's top Christmas movies, right? That they watch every single year. I'd say overrated. I think it's. Although I said earlier on, Richard Curtis is like he's got that sentimentality that comes through earnestly. I just think it aged very poorly. This movie, by the year, just gets a little bit uglier and uglier.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not.
If I remember rightly, like not a lot of the characters are that nice.
Yeah.
And he kind of
they're all having affairs or like fancying each other.
Oh, the Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
So yeah, overrated.
Overrated.
Yeah.
Universally overrated. Fuck you, Tony.
Is that Tony Curtis?
Yeah. Just everyone.
Richard
Tony.
Curtis.
Is it Richard Curtis?
Yeah.
I think it's Tony Curtis. That's the guy who's Time Team, isn't it?
Tony Curtis is.
I quite like Time Team. Sorry, Tony.
Or Jamie Lee Curtis's dad.
Yeah.
No, fuck him. Top Gun 1 and Maverick.
That was my dad.
Hey, hello, Dad.
Top Gun's his favourite film. I think Top Gun 1 is overrated. Sorry, Dad. But I bloody loved Top Gun Maverick.
I loved Maverick. I think it's blockbuster purity.
Yeah.
I also like Top Gun 1. I love Tony Scott, so I would say they're both underrated.
Yeah. I don't think Top Gun Maverick's underrated because it performed so well and everyone loves that film.
Oh yeah, that's true. Again, the metric is hard.
I think it falls into the got exactly what it deserved in terms of praise category. Top Gun 1,
agreed.
I had fun with it. It was a fun film. A lot of people give it a lot of flack because it hasn't aged as gracefully as it could potentially have, but liked it. So underrated.
Jojo Rabbit.
I think that was my mum.
Hey, mummy.
You better find out where all our listeners.
Thank God for our parents.
So actually, you guys have more authentic input than we did.
I think they put a couple of responses in. Maybe I'll just be like, I don't know who that next one's from.
This is from Mum. Strange name.
Yeah.
I think my parents really like Love Actually as well. Just realised.
Oh,
Oh,
mate.
no.
Oh, no.
Disowned.
You're getting a slap. You're getting a slap next time you see
To
it.
me, Ben, you are perfect.
Yeah, there's some good bits to it, I guess.
Don't come crawling back to
Yes,
Mum.
The horrible thing with Alan Rickman cheating on his wife is nasty, but whenever he goes to the department shop and Rowan Atkinson turns up and does the gift wrap sequence, that's quite funny.
Also, Emma Thompson's reaction to finding...
Oh yeah, but
that's a really good
Joni
moment.
Mitchell's Both Sides Now is
I
quite
like
touching.
that
yeah.
as a performance. I thought that was
Yes.
quite heartbreaking. Give it that. Sorry.
I liked the orgy scene.
Yes.
I imagined it.
That's on the Blu-ray, isn't it?
Yeah, extended cut.
Comic relief.
Ian and is it Ian Curtis? That's the front man from Joy Division. I can't every famous insect guy is surnamed Curtis.
Jamie Lee.
Shit. Jamie Lee, Ian Curtis, Tony Curtis. You have an orgy. Oh, poor Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh.
I think Ian Curtis was quite a handsome guy. Anyway, Jojo Rabbit. Overrated.
I've not seen it, so I can't comment.
I don't get the Taika Waititi buzz. I don't think he's the saviour of cinema as people wax lyrical about him to be. I thought the film was tone deaf and naff.
He's let his ego run away.
Yeah, overrated here as well.
Sorry, if you did like it, please say.
No, I don't think I hated it as much as you did, but I felt quite anti it, and I saw what it was trying to do, and I felt a bit icky by the end of it. It just didn't work for me.
No.
Yeah, I'd say overrated. I did like the Sam Rockwell performance, though. I thought that they handled the whole... I think that's the one subtle thing that Taika's ever done in his modern films, anyway.
Yeah.
Is, like, handle the sort of, like, the fear, like, the tandem between the fear of being homosexual as well as being a Jew in that environment. How he handles that in the performance, I think, is quite good. That scene whenever the Nazis are raiding the home, and he's kind of partaking in that, but he knows that there's Jews in his home, but he also knows that he's a victim, like he's secretly gay and doesn't want to out this out. But it's all in the performance; it's not in the script.
Yeah. It's over in the script, but subtle in performance.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. The rest of the film's a little bit. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I came across a bit strong there, but I will say it's bizarre that I think we said this before. Sam Rockwell playing these sort of redemptive arc characters.
Yeah.
Seems to be his
Troubling behaviour with a redemptive arc with three billboards and
Yeah. Next one's Mulan and the subsequent remake, the live action remake, which I haven't seen.
I don't know who that was from.
It's an odd one.
The original Mulan, I remember sort of quite liking as a kid.
Yeah, love Milan.
Yeah, funnily enough, one of my dad's favourite films as well.
Yeah, the songs in that movie they rip.
Yeah, no, I actually have really fond memories
Yeah.
of seeing that with my dad. So I love that film.
I grew up with two older sisters, so we watched it on VHS all the time. So.
Yeah, it's not,
The
fair
new
enough.
one, absolute shite.
Oh, is it?
I think so.
I feel like they could have done something quite interesting with that, given the sort of wealth of sort of influential sort of like material.
Jet Li's in the film.
Yeah, because I thought they were going for that sort of wuxier martial art vibe, which could have been quite interesting.
Yeah,
but
saying like you can really play with that
Yeah.
story. I don't think you had to, because they like half wanted to play with it and half wanted it to be the Disney film, and then it just ends up being this kind of weird,
yeah,
inconsistent, I would say, film.
It's inoffensive, but it's not riling.
Yeah. Whereas really, you could have made something really interesting with that. But there you go.
they just like to flog the corpse, don't they? Disney.
yeah.
Howl's Moving Castle, often maligned as one of the weaker Miyazaki movies.
I see. I loved it. I'm going to say underrated. I thought it was really quite special in him. But then I haven't been exposed to nearly as much Studio Ghibli as I'm sure either.
I'm exactly the same. We actually are thinking of doing a series on Chris introducing me to all the films I've only seen a few.
that'd be good. I'd love to listen
And
to
this
that.
is actually
Yeah.
from a girl I used to work with, Holly.
Hello, Holly.
Who loves Studio Ghibli, so I'm sure she'll be disappointed to know that I still haven't watched many more since we worked together.
Oh, man.
But
We're putting ourselves in the crosshairs of parents and friends and former colleagues here.
Yeah.
Even like the worst Miyazaki is still like
great.
Yeah.
100% agree. Yeah,
you know,
I would say underrated personally.
Yeah, I think it sort of.
It wasn't his project originally, too. He overtook it, didn't he? It was like halfway through, and he steered it away. He didn't like the direction it was going. So, but I think it's good still.
There's something to be said about, if they've got kind of quite a unique craft and a unique sort of way of doing things, and even their worst work is still quite magical.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, based on the fact I haven't seen that much of it. I'd say underrated. Sure.
Sweet. Still a few to go. Stay with us. Quiet Place.
Overrated. I liked it, but overrated.
Yeah, I think it's overrated.
Yeah.
What is the weakness?
On the whiteboard.
Yeah. I enjoyed it when it came out. I must admit, as a blockbuster bit of entertainment, I found it quite involving, and I had an emotional response watching it. I don't know if I'd feel the same now, but I liked it when it came out.
I second that, actually. I really liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 50-50? Are you underrated with that?
I don't want to go as far to say as like underrated.
No.
It's difficult, isn't it? I think it's I wouldn't say overrated either, but yeah. I do
occupies
like it.
an awkward space, doesn't it?
I think my fondness for it has gone down because I really didn't like the second one.
Yeah.
And just feel like a dead horse now.
Poor horse. Dune. Not the Lynch one, the Villeneuve one.
I loved it.
I liked it. I thought it was visually stunning, and it had a real pomposity to it, which I both liked and found a bit exasperating. But then I talk about that, we need blockbusters with some sense of originality to them, and then I fucking go and shit on the ones that do. So I don't know. Maybe you can't fucking please me. Maybe I'm just a twat.
I mean, it was I've not read the books. I've not seen Lynch's version, so it was my first kind of introduction to Dune, but I really liked it.
Yeah, I didn't dislike it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'd say if it's overrated or underrated. I don't know.
I'd say underrated I don't know. It's very much contextual to the scenario that I watched it in, because I watched it. It was the first film I went to see after COVID was kind of over, and I saw it as a cinema, and it was like the biggest, most amazing cinematic experience that I hadn't had for the past 2 years. So I was like, oh, such a breath of fresh air. Yeah. So on that basis, very much personal to me, I'd say, I guess underrated, but it performed well and people like it, and there's a second one coming out soon.
Yeah. Couldn't help shake the feeling that Chalamet was miscast, but I've not read the book, so I don't know.
I've heard that. I have heard that.
In the books, Paul is a lot younger. Like I think he's like 10 or 11 in the book.
Wow. Okay.
So, which would have not really worked cinematically. I think it would have been a really hard to push. I think he does. I don't think he's the strongest performance in it, but I think he's doing it fine.
They could have AI'd and de-aged Bob Hoskins,
especially when you're
could got Bob McLaughlin back.
I'm just saying. I'd maybe be more sympathetic to AI's cause if they did that.
Yeah.
Just with the weird eyes.
Yeah. The eyes have gone in different directions.
It's glazed over.
Sorry, I completely interrupted you there.
No, not at all. I think Bob Hoskins would be great in the sand dunes. Right in a worm.
These next two are from Lee. Not... Seat's only just cooled off from where his bum was sat. Where you are, Chris.
Oh, right, okay. Thought it smelled a bit funny.
Crank 2.
Fun movie.
Yeah.
I'd say it's sort of weirdly underrated.
It's forgotten. It came out, everyone was like, yeah, what a sequel, and then everyone forgot about it really, really quickly.
Yeah.
So I would say underrated.
I think in the context of reflecting on Statham's career, it would be underrated, actually.
Yeah.
Because his films are shit. Most of his films are shit now.
Shot in a really interesting way. They got a bunch of GoPros and like consumer cameras and just went mental with them. So
I don't mean most. I just maybe thinking more Expendables 4.
Yeah.
And the Beekeeper one. Has everyone seen that yet?
No. I've seen the Beekeeper.
Any good?
No, it's awful. It's quite funny in places because it does like a really weird thing where it basically makes the villain of the film like Hunter Biden. It's really strange. And then when that clicks, you're like, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Isn't it that he was like with a military faction called the Beekeepers,
Yes.
and then became an actual beekeeper by chance afterwards. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's really interesting because the first 10 minutes I was like, oh, this is a really interesting setup. Like, it gave me like Taken vibes.
Oh, okay.
Like I thought, oh, I can't wait to watch Jason Statham get revenge on his neighbor's death and all this kind of stuff. But then it just turns into like a really weird kind of like John Wick ripoff.
Okay.
And a
right.
really bad one at that as well. So
I just think he is really guilty. I think it may be because of Crank, and Crank did it quite well, but those sort of, it's like humour gets away with being shit.
Yeah.
He does that quite a lot in his films, and it's like,
Yeah.
you can't flog that horse too much. This horse is fucking...
there's lots of bee puns.
Yeah.
Lots of bee puns.
Oh, really? Okay.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So did we say underrated for that?
Oh, for Crank 2,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've not seen it actually.
Okay.
So I can't
Underrated. Yeah.
add it to the list.
Next one, I think this is going to cause a schism.
Ooh.
Podcast schism.
Okay.
South and Tales.
Fucking underrated.
Underrated.
Yeah.
With you, Ben.
Yeah.
I'm the only person in this room who hasn't seen it.
Okay, I think. Oh god, don't gang up on me. I think it's rated correctly. I don't think it's particularly.
Okay. Fair enough.
I don't know. I think maybe I've only seen it the once, and I found it a bit of a drag to get through.
It is long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We've got the arrow, or I've got the arrow.
Yeah, I don't have it,
which
you
is
know.
even longer.
Is it?
I think there's
yeah.
elements of it which are really interesting. I just don't think it like holds together very well from my viewing.
See-
But there's definitely bits of it where I was like, this is very interesting, and if my memory serves me right, I think it starts really well.
Yeah, it's got
Yeah.
a good start to it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And there's just some wonderful moments. And Richard Kelly, I think, is really good at generating intrigue, even if there's no payoff. I feel like the intrigue is enough for me.
Yeah.
And also, there's a bit at the end with Sean William Scott on an ice cream truck floating up above Los Angeles, and Moby's playing in the background.
Yeah,
It's a really good Moby song as well.
They have Justin Timberlake lip sync into like The Killers.
Yeah, right in the middle of the
God,
film.
yeah. Sean William Scott's fucking great in it.
He is good.
That's, The Rock's really good in it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
That
He's
performance
recently-
from him.
Has he not recently been cast in a Safdie film?
Oh, really?
One half of the Safdie film. Yeah. One of the Safdie brothers, because they split, didn't they?
Yeah, they're not making stuff together anymore.
And I'm sure The Rock, maybe he's going back to doing stuff that isn't just like a fucking ego trip.
I hope
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
I hope so too. I
Yeah.
want to see him win an Oscar one day.
Do you think?
Wow.
I think he could do it.
I'd rather an AI Bob Hoskins playing
Oh,
Paul
fair
than won an Oscar. Yeah, I'd fucking love South and Tales. Mad Max original.
Overrated.
It's very sparse, isn't it?
Yeah, the second one's much better.
Yeah. Probably is overrated.
Yeah, and then Fury Road
know.
is
But
probably
number
better.
2 just completely is. It's almost like that is the only original film, and it's
Yeah.
overtaken the original film so much I think people forget it exists.
Yeah.
I'd say underrated. 'Cause you're right. It is sparse. Like it is almost set.
It's an admirable effort.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah, maybe
very
that-
low budget film.
It's sort of like, I mean, it's not the same because Evil Dead 1 is still beloved, but like Evil Dead 2
was just thinking about it.
Evil
Yeah,
Dead 2 is like the sort of...
And I think Evil Dead 1's better. I think it's
Yeah,
great.
I
think
agree,
It's,
yeah.
I think it's really eerie, that film.
Yeah,
It really
yeah.
actually gets under my skin.
More broadly speaking, Evil Dead 2 is the sort of like more refined Evil Dead 1. So
Yes.
maybe
Yeah.
like Mad Max 2 is 1, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think all the Mad Max movies are basically remakes anyway. So.
Yeah.
I'm undecided about that. I'll say overrated now. I'll probably regret it as soon as we stop recording. But
Yeah, second Mel Gibson mention of the podcast.
yeah.
Our boy.
Go on,
No, he's
Mel.
not. No, he's not.
Oh, wait.
Alex, you're wearing a Mel Gibson t-shirt. You're wearing a Free Mel t-shirt.
What's this receipt here for Jordan Peterson masterclass?
I was worried because you took off the Cineboys hoodie that we were talking about earlier, and I thought, what are you taking that off for?
Mel Gibson.
And underneath, you've got the Mel Gibson there.
Mel Gibson was doing those master classes too, wasn't he? Like
Was
last
he?
year,
Yeah.
he was going to like Manchester Arena and like doing like an evening with Mel.
Oh no.
That's the title that's more fitting for a Butlins.
yeah,
How the fuck you managed to secure a venue in Manchester? Should be like fucking Skeg.
yeah. South End
with Mel.
Pier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. This is your pick.
This is my pick. Yeah, overrated.
I'm going to say underrated because I have a huge spot in my heart for Shane Black.
Okay. Yeah.
That is my favourite of Shane Black's films as well. I think I love Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
I haven't seen it in years, but I remember liking it. But I was like a teenager, so
I thought it was a big.
so that could be nothing.
I thought it was a big mess. Like honestly, I can't engage with that film. I've seen it 3 times, not joking. The second time, something happened which was unplanned, which was that I had some THC that was in my system, and I didn't mind it that much that time. But
Sorry, you're talking about drugs?
yes.
I'm sorry, but, you know, how are we going to get Mel Gibson on now if you talk about drugs?
No, I don't know what happened, but somehow it got into my bloodstream. I'm not sure why or how, but there it was. And I didn't mind it that time, and then I watched it again afterwards, sober, and I was like, I can't engage with it. I don't know what it is. I think it's jarringly, the tonal shifts are really jarring. It's a LA movie, which kind of, they can annoy me in the wrong kind of context.
I can see that, yeah.
They're all, I don't care about any of the characters. The funniest line was delivered by Val Kilmer early on, and then it just, I don't know. Yeah, I thought it was really wafery and a bit stupid. But sorry, everyone. Yeah, overrated. That's my pick.
Over it, fair enough. I'm going to go under.
Under as well, yeah.
No comment. It's been too long.
Fair enough.
You just feel like you're ganging up on Ben, alright?
Ghostbusters? Underrated.
Wait,
overrated, actually.
Overrated, yeah.
Overrated.
The original.
I assume so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think overrated as well. It doesn't, like,
I don't get the
nostalgia-wise,
reference.
it doesn't really, like, hold a big
No.
place in my heart.
I guess it's for people that were like sort of 15 or 10 to 15 at the time, have a lot of.
I feel like a lot of kids nowadays are reconnecting with it, and it's like
Yeah.
it's find a
New
new
films out,
generation.
isn't it? Is the new films out, I think?
Yeah, you had
Yeah.
Afterlife, and you got Frozen Empire on its way. Yeah.
There was a cartoon in the 90s.
Yeah.
I remember watching that, but again, it still doesn't hold place.
No,
Yeah.
not for me either, really.
It's quite a popular opinion amongst people in our age range, actually.
Okay.
They don't particularly enjoy Ghostbusters.
Oh.
I've heard that from a lot of
We're,
people.
we're a microcosm for
I just don't feel anything when I watch that movie.
No,
Getting
I'm not
excited
huge,
by it.
I'm not a huge Bill Murray fan in general, and I'm not just saying that after he's got cancelled. Like I never particularly
Okay.
got on with that vibe anyway. So yeah, controversial opinion right after the kiss kiss bang 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 bomb bang. That just happened.
that and the THC consumption.
Oh,
Jurassic Park, Lost World.
yeah.
I don't know why I threw this in. It was a bit weird. No, I was getting every side at the start.
I liked it.
Underrated.
For its sort of the dinosaur stuff at the end in the city. They kind of just went all out, didn't they?
Yeah, I
They
like
went a
that.
bit Canon Films with it.
Yeah, that's why I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah,
The Velociraptor scene in the grass.
Oh yeah. Which they fucking Jurassic World stole.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I think it worked a
Is
lot
this
better.
is this the one with Pete Postlewaite in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
is Vince Vaughn in it as well?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
He is, yeah.
And Julianne Moore.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that's
It's got a
right.
really good cast.
Yeah.
I really like it. I do really like it. I think you're right about the ending is kind of. I love the T-Rex going through like suburbia and stuff like that, isn't it? It's
Eating a dog.
yes, yeah.
Always burnt into my mind
Yeah.
as a child.
I always I'm always baffled why there aren't more dinosaur movies. I feel like the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World films never really capitalized on like moving it out of a theme park.
Yeah.
Thing. It's just like people love dinosaurs.
Yeah,
Where are all the
oh,
dinosaurs?
Yeah, not a lot of films, are they?
No, not really. No. Oh,
So-
65, starring Adam Driver.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, there's
That's
that
all
one.
right.
King Kong beats the shit out of a few of them.
Oh yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Land Before Time.
Oh yes. Yes, I
And
remember
the
those.
subsequent 85 sequels.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. So underrated, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, go on.
Agreed. Yeah.
We're almost there. Temple of Doom. Underrated, in my view. So I should stop saying it in this straight away. I should let other people say their opinion first. Sorry. Carry on.
I like it a lot actually. I think that was the one that when I was growing up, that was the one I remember the most out of the original 3, the trilogy. Perhaps because it's
That's
really
a very
dark.
common thing to say, actually.
I think there's a great gag at the beginning, which like is when he shuts the door to the airplane and he's
Yeah.
like so long, and then he closes it and it's the guy's name. Like,
Yes.
I just think
it's
silly.
good.
The voodoo stuff I quite liked. A lot of people didn't like it, but I did.
Very gruesome.
Yeah,
gruesome
yeah.
one, isn't it?
Yeah,
Spielberg and
Guy
Lucas.
get his heart ripped out.
Yeah. Spielberg and Lucas were both going through divorces at the time.
Yes.
Genuinely, so that's why it's pretty horrible in places.
But it also sets out to do the thing that specifically George Lucas was probably trying to do the most when it was like honoring these serials of the 50s and the 40s and kind of wanting to redo that. And I think of all the Indiana Jones movies, that's probably the one that does it the most. So it's like a fun little detour away from like the general shtick. I like it.
Yeah. I will say this, like having seen it recently to like get ready for the new film, I don't think it ages particularly well. But it was also my favourite growing up. Yeah.
Nice. Right, down to the last two. Life is Beautiful. It was your inclusion, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to bring a time turn again, but this is a Holocaust movie. The same director of Cinema Paradiso. So this was a kind of a victory lap movie that he made. It's just very overly sentimental in that way. It's very it kind of has a bit more of a broader appeal to it. Probably has a phoniness to it that probably just doesn't feel earned. I don't really like the movie that much, and a lot of people love it. It's comes up in a lot of people's like top 10s a lot. I see for that kind of movie. I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way.
I have seen it a long time ago, so I'm not sure.
Feel inspired?
I need to revisit that. And finally, Rogue One, Star Wars, a Star Wars story. You put this in, I believe, Alex.
No, I think it was Ben, no?
Was it?
No, it was me.
Was it you? Oh, sorry, Chris.
But I know you feel similar to me, Alex. Yeah. We talk about it a lot. Yeah, I think it's very nice looking. I think it's Gareth Edwards obviously is a master at kind of developing these worlds and making the most out of little, and it is probably the best looking modern Star Wars movie apart from Last Jedi. But I just think that it's fan service the movie, to put it lightly. The jokes are very winky. The Forrest Whitaker performance is bizarre. I just feel like it completely relies on nostalgia and doesn't earn anything that it does, and just feels a bit cold at the end of it.
Yeah, I agree. Because like you said, we feel similarly. But I really struggle getting on board with the characters. I feel like it's similarly just very cold to the film. But yeah, it looks great. The final battle
it looks great.
Is good.
Yeah.
Though I do disagree on Forrest Whitaker. I did like what he was doing.
Shout out to Donnie Yen as well.
Oh yeah.
It's a shame that he sort of gets a big role in like a Western film. It doesn't quite take off for him.
No, yeah.
Because he's a fucking hero, you know. I mean, obviously he's been in John Wick and other films, but this is like a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Being in a Marvel.
He is the best thing in John Wick, though. I think in that movie.
Yeah, he's fucking great.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
he's one of the great sort of Hong Kong action stars of like the 90s, late 80s, 90s. I quite liked it, but then I haven't seen it in a long time, and I have sort of franchise fatigue. So I think if I watched it again, I'd probably be more inclined to agree with you guys, to be honest.
Yeah, I saw it once. I think it was the start of the Disney, the kind of Disneyfication of Star Wars, and it really took over from there. It was pretty light in Rogue One. Like, I remember there being some scenes on a beach which were quite nice because the water looked blue, and like you say, it's a nice looking film. I don't remember it that well. I remember it being a really stupid joking about when it's actually Donnie Yen's character where he keeps repeating the same thing about the Force.
I'm one with the Force. The Force is with me.
I don't like it. It's not funny. None of the humour in Star Wars is particularly good. And it never has been. Even the original trilogy, it's like a kind of groan-inducing sort of thing, which is,
It's always difficult with Star Wars, isn't it? Because, like, such a... Yeah, the fandom either loves it or hates it either way, isn't it?
I think the fandom love Rogue One, though.
Nobody ever agrees on Star Wars films.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, I love the prequels. I love all of them. I second your opinion with the Phantom Menace, and even Attack of the Clones I quite enjoy largely. They have a story to tell, and they tell them, like, when I don't think Rogue One really did as much.
Yeah.
There
we go. List is over.
Oh,
wait. Cars 3. Underrated, right, guys?
Outro.
Questing the cinematic void.
There we have it then.
There we have
I
it.
really enjoyed that. Thank you so much for coming on, guys.
Thanks for having us on.
Really
Yeah.
nice.
It's been a blast.
Oh, yeah.
Really good fun.
Loved it. Yeah, it's been really good. It's been really good.
I mean, I look forward to it for a really long time. Once we sort of nailed the date in, I think I said to you guys before we started recording, but waking up for work Monday gone, I was like, the only thing keeping me going through this week is this. Oh, wow.
Oh, that's very sweet.
I mean, it's sweet, but it's sort of depressing.
What are you going to do?
What are we going to do now?
You're fucked.
Talk about Madam Web.
Yeah, well, exactly, yeah.
Well, we should schedule in another date so you have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Because we'll definitely have to get you on the film angle.
I was going to say, we'll come on to yours.
Love to go on. Yeah. Love to go on.
Oh,
Yeah.
Next week's Madam Web.
yeah.
You guys have seen it, haven't you?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. You set the bar high.
Oh, whoops.
No, yeah, I think your sort of brief snapshot review is very much indicative of the wider critical and commercial consensus around the film.
It is fascinating. It's a really fascinating big studio film. Just to see the finished product
In all its glory.
Yeah. I won't go into it, obviously, but yeah, fascinating.
Oh man,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't never have watched it had it not been for this podcast. But I think it will prompt a bit of a discussion about like earlier sort of Sony's sort of earlier superhero output and how they're kind of trying to claw it back a little bit potentially. I don't.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I think if we're going to revisit superhero films, we go into an era that perhaps I've been sort of chat about.
Absolutely.
huge amount,
Yeah.
Which would be fun because I did that era superhero films.
Yeah, really interesting.
dig it
You've
there,
got
don't
Hulk
you?
and stuff. You know,
Oh yeah, Ang Lee.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I quite like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can
That'd be
talk
another
about
good film to die on a hill for, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
actually.
think so.
Yeah.
Shit.
Right, strap in for another hour. No, thanks again, guys. It's been a blast.
Yeah,
and
thank
we'll look forward to going on yours if you'll have us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll have
Happy days.
Enjoy this episode. No, don't. No, I'm not saying that because that's arrogant.
Enjoy it, aka go back and listen to all of it again.
Yeah, and there are other episodes. No, we hope you enjoyed this one.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, and see you in the next one.
See you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.